Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 279. We're getting scary close to 300 actually. It's a little scary. It's a DC Comics podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up, people?
Connor was scheduled to be on this episode and pulled out at the last minute like the shady character he is.
Who's Connor?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. I've been asking that many a time on this show.
Yeah.
Not always referring to the same Connor, admittedly, but
I'll do you one better. Why is Connor?
when is Connor? Where is Connor? This is DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about DC Comics. Coming up on this week's show, we have a brand new series from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen called Robin and Batman, issue 1. We'll be looking at that. We got Batman the Imposter, issue 2. We have Wonder Woman 781, which I actually read, by the way. I jumped in on.
There you go. Issue. That's a nice surprise.
Yeah, and then Action Comics 1036, and I'm actually realizing that I meant to rearrange these and then forgot to, so they're just in this order now, and that's how we're doing it.
Gotcha.
So that's cool. And then also a couple of Patreon books. I've read Joker issue 9, which is a new release this week as well, and I've been a little bit late on this one, but Animal Man issue 13 is coming up today as well. So that is the books that are coming up on today's show. It's a later week, so we'll probably allow for a bit of waffling before we get to the books. But have no fear, because there's always a top 10.
Boy, I just had to go reselect all the comics so I can see what else came out that wasn't just DC.
ComiXology top 10 for the week at the time of recording, which is a Friday this week. I should mention it's a day earlier than normal.
Yes.
Just if that happens to alter things dramatically. It looks like another Marvel heavy week in the top 10, but
right.
We'll have a quick peek here.
That's a good hint on what books to look at.
All right, go on. Guess what number one. I usually make you guess if it's a DC book, but fine. Since you're wanting to.
Yeah. Well, I'm checking which Star Wars books came out, but it's not looking like it's a lot. So I'm gonna go with the new number 1 that came out as Venom number 1.
No.
Damn.
In fact, I'm looking for that. That is like it's in the top 10, but not by much.
Shoot. Well, sorry, then it's got to be the Amazing Spider-Man.
It is. Amazing Spider-Man issue 78 is number 1 at the time of recording. Number 2 is Excalibur issue 25. Number 3 is a Star Wars book. It's Star Wars The High Republic issue 11.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is Hellions issue 17. The next book.
Okay, that's a X property.
Yeah. Number 5 is Eternals issue 7. So Marvel took all the top 5. That is a little depressing. Yeah. as a DC podcast,
especially on this week, because this week had some really solid not heavy hitters, but had some solid hitters.
Yes.
From DC this week.
Yes. So Eternals number 5, and then number 6 we do finally come up with some DC Action Comics 1036, and at number 6.
Great showing.
And then Alien issue 8 at number 7. Number 8 is Wonder Woman issue 781, and number 9 is Venom issue 1, and number 10 is the Joker issue 9. So 3 DC books in the bottom half of the top 5. Not amazing by any stretch, but there wasn't a lot of DC books out admittedly this week. If you go a little bit further down to 13, you get Imposter issue 2, and then right after that the Justice League Last Ride book, and then Robin and Batman, then Batman Urban Legends, and then just a couple of spots after that I Am Batman. So there's a lot of DC in the teens this week, and I wonder how this is working out for them, because there's a lot more minis, there's a lot more like Black Label, and even Robin and Batman's not a Black Label book, but it's a limited series. So
no, but I didn't realize. So I thought it was gonna be a longer. I knew it was a mini, but I was like, wow, this is oversized. We're getting like 6 or 7 of these, and I was like, oh no, there's only 3, which makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Obviously I'd like to see more DC in the top 5, but hey, Spider books and X books and Star Wars books are just selling a lot, I guess, right now. They're
yeah, and to play devil's advocate here, though, like this is kind of a mishmash of a week where there's not like really a flagship. Like, sure, Action Comics is the first like Superman, right?
I mean,
But it's never been like a.
What you're saying is there's not a Batman or a Detective Comics out.
No, not just that, but like even like Wonder Woman, or there's nothing like.
There's a Wonder Woman.
But that's what I mean. Wonder Woman's not at that level. You know what I mean? Like there's certain books that are gonna push, whether it would be back in the day Justice League, even a Batman or a Tech or whatever. This week just kind of you have Action and Wonder Woman and Joker, and then everything else is kind of like a mismatch. You have Urban Legends, you have Future State, I Am Batman, and then the Imposter is a Black Label.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I guess there's Black Manta too, but I mean it's Black Manta. It's a mini.
So... Oh yeah, Black Manta I would never expect to be in the top 10.
No,
it's just not that type of book.
But yeah, so I mean, Action showing up at number 6 is pretty good though. I'm excited for that. Mm-hmm. Getting that World train going. Yeah.
There is one small bit of news to tack on to this as well. It's not a big thing, but Justice League Incarnate issues 1 and 2 have both been pushed back a little bit. Not a huge amount, because Justice League Incarnate issue 1 is now scheduled for the 30th of November, meaning that it must have been only pushed back by a week or two, because we're already in November, so it's not that much of a delay. And then issue 2 has been pushed back to the 21st of December. Issue 3 is still, right now, set for the 4th of January, which is its original date. I mean, that might slip when we get closer, depending on the reasons why. That said, if this is related to paper shortages, maybe not, or maybe that's just more of a reason why it will get pushed back, because the paper will still be in low supply. I don't know, but either way, just a couple of small delays for that miniseries. And I guess it's easier to delay that because it hasn't started yet. It's like, well, it's not a big deal if that starts a little bit later than it was.
Yeah, it gives me the yips a little bit after his last big Justice League book. What happened to Odyssey?
Oh, sure.
With him.
I mean, this is a miniseries, though. At least it's only meant to be 6 or 7 issues.
Yeah, no, I know. And I'm not projecting any bad thing. I just, as a Williamson fan, when he does these big galaxy-spanning kind of books, this one's a multiverse-spanning, and it gets pushed by a little bit, it makes me nervous. That's all.
Yep. So that is basically the news. So it is a bit of a lighter week. So I think I'll fill in before we get to the books this week. Not DC related, but comic book media related. I watched Shang-Chi last night.
I'm gonna rewatch that maybe tonight.
I can't imagine why you'd want to rewatch it, honestly.
Because I loved it. That's why.
Okay, like, it was okay in the first half, and the back half was so boring. It was so dull.
I liked it.
The over CG endings with these Marvel movies is so tiring at this point.
Yes, which I stupidly thought of you when it gets to the final and the amount of CG. Going back to the Black Panther review, and I get it, but I had fun with Shang-Chi. I grew up watching Jackie Chan movies, and especially that first half really felt like a Jackie Chan movie.
I disagree. I think there's one scene that tries to be a Jackie Chan movie, and it kind of ruins it with over direction and slow motion. There's one great shot on the bus fight where it's outside the bus tracking from right to left, and you just sort of see him fighting through the window. But there's too many cuts. There's too much over-the-top slow motion moments that it takes. What makes those Jackie Chan movies special, the good Jackie Chan movies, is that they do a lot. It's not oneers, but they do a lot in a single take, right? So there's a lot in each shot where you can see it really happening.
Because Jackie wanted to make sure that you knew that he was doing it, right?
Yes,
there wasn't
that's what makes it feel
room for stuff.
So it makes it feel special. I only watched Police Story for the first time this year.
Right.
And it's amazing. What
is that the one where he fell through and really hurt himself and he was out for a while?
Yeah. It was a big stunt where he falls to a bunch of glass or something. But there's a lot of comedy to it. Where Shang-Chi, I think, takes itself a bit more seriously in the fight scenes. I mean, sure, there's one-liners from Awkwafina, and things, but
but that's why I said it felt like a Jackie Chan movie. It wasn't a Jackie Chan movie. Right. It was,
So not only that though, right? So I mentioned the CG. There is some shockingly bad CG in this, but not just the big things that you would think are going to look a bit goofy. There's some basic stuff that just looks really right at the start of the movie. There's a lot of flashbacks in this movie. There's a flashback right at the start where Tony Leung, who's playing his father, who's a great actor, has been in a lot of good films over his career. Mostly not English speaking, mostly Chinese, but
he was definitely that guy because I've seen him in things, but I didn't know his name.
Oh, he's been in numerous great things.
Yeah.
And there's even a little bit of the I think you call it wushu martial arts towards the start, which was okay, although it just made me want to go watch Hero again, which Tony Leung is in, funnily enough.
That's what I was gonna say. That's where I didn't know his name, but I was like, he's that guy. I've seen him in movies. So.
But there's a shot where he's looking for a mystical place in the jungle, right? And his car or truck is like set over a cliff. And when he looks down at like the truck going into the trees at the bottom of this cliff, the trees look so fake. Like they look like they've got this smooth texture, like they're out of like a video game, like an old video game. And I'm like, why does this look so bad? And then the immediate shot after it is him green screened against the forest behind him. And I'm like, you couldn't have put him in front of some trees? Like, why is this a green screen shot? And why does it look so bad? Why does this look so cartoony?
I see. I feel like I can't comment because it's been a couple months since I've seen, so I can't comment. But on the big screen, I didn't notice any of that stuff.
The first like 5 minutes of the movie, I'm like noticing like these visual things like sticking out at me. They just feel really ugly and unpolished. It was weird. But yeah, it goes into like fine. But honestly though, like I considered like when I started the movie, I thought, maybe afterwards I'll record a little review. I'll do like a 30 minutes talking about Shang-Chi. And by the time I got halfway through the movie, I'm like, I can't talk about this movie. I can talk about it for 5 minutes on this podcast because it's just a 5-minute thing. But I just don't give a shit about this movie. I was so bored.
Yeah, I like Simu Liu. I can't ever pronounce his last name. I get tripped up. I liked him a whole lot as Shang-Chi. Awkwafina didn't annoy me like she has in other things. She is a little bit jokey. But I like the whole dynamic of Shang-Chi and his father, and the whole representation of the martial arts aspect of the MCU, because let us not forget how terrible Iron Fist was and how invested I was into that. Iron Fist being one of my favorite characters. So to see this arena or this section of the MCU be brought to life, and it feels appropriate, and we're not focusing on business mergers and BS. I was very, very
happy. Mean, I guess it's a little bit better than Iron Fist, but I didn't like it that much more, to be honest.
I don't know. I much rather, like, again, probably gonna watch Shang-Chi tonight because it's on Disney Plus now. I cannot wait for you to see the Eternals.
There's just something so bland about these recent Marvel movies. Black Widow and Shang-Chi, I just like did nothing for me. And it's not like the ideas are inherently bad. Like I like good wushu movies, I like good martial arts movies, and hell, I mean, not to get too spoilery, but look, some of the stuff near the end is kind of about a Hellmouth and a Cthulhu-like beast. Like, I should be all over this. And I could not have cared less. The final fight between the good guy and the bad guy takes place against just like rocks. It's like this grey rock area, and they've went out of their way to have all these colourful, bright, vivid areas, and like these locations that they're in towards the end of the film. And then the final fight is like just grey rock behind them. There's no geography. It falls into all the trappings of crappy generic Hollywood shit. I don't know. I'm just better news though, Matt. Better news.
Yeah.
There is hope for Predator because just today
I saw. Which did our friend Dan wish this into existence?
No, we already knew about it. Like we knew Dan Trachtenberg, who did 10 Cloverfield Lane, was working on a Predator movie.
Okay.
It was working under the codename Skulls. Today we got the official title though, which is Prey. Although it's in the old Predator font. So you can sort of it still visually has some recognition, and it goes well with Predator. Obviously, Predator and Prey, the kind of related words. But there's also an image, right? So we didn't know what the premise was, right? We had no idea what it was. It turns out it's set it's like 300 years in the past, and it's like a female warrior who's protecting her tribe from the Predator. And the image they put out today is just like in the mist, and it's this like warrior with a bow and arrow, and it's like this is pre-guns and everything else, and you just see like the Predator in the background with the red light, and I'm like, holy shit, this actually looks great from one image and a simple premise.
I am a much fan of the whole advanced technological aliens versus not even just humans, but like that era, pre-industrial revolution era humans. So this looks rad. I didn't even see the image. I just saw all the talk.
Oh, the image is great. Like
I just pulled it up now, and
I think the thing about Jason, not Jason, sorry, I'm about to compare him with Jason, which is why I said Jason. The thing about Predator is that much like Jason Voorhees or other slasher villains, you can kind of keep doing Predator movies as long as you just keep putting them in different settings, different time periods against different types of people. I think there's enough there to just be an entertaining film every time. So I'm all for this, and I'm kind of excited to see how he fights. Does he still use his laser blaster when the people he's fighting do not have firearms?
Yeah, because like that's the thing with Predator too. There's a sense of honor, like an honor code, right? And that's what I've always drawn to.
Does he stick to his spear and his bladed weapons because of who he's fighting only has access to similar things? I mean, they do have bows and arrows. I don't know how what he would consider that.
But like you said, like he the spear, dagger, like any type of stuff. Is this a specialized Predator that doesn't want to use lasers and whatnot? Like.
Yeah, the other thing that helps me about this is I just watched 10 Cloverfield Lane again a few weeks ago for the Ace, and it holds up. In fact, because we delayed the recording, I had to watch it a third time. I had to watch it a second time in the space of a week, and that second viewing in a week still worked for me. Like I wasn't bored because I just watched it a week before, so that holds up.
That tonal shift in the last act, I'll never forget being in the theater. That stuff started happening, and it just, I think even some people in the audience gasped, and it just made for a great moment. Easily the best movie with Cloverfield.
No question. No question.
It's not even close.
It's not close. And even I had decent memories of the first one in the theater. When I watched it again for Ace a while ago, it doesn't really hold up. And if anything, like all the found footage movies that have came out since that have done nothing but point out all the cliches that are in it. And technically they weren't cliches yet, but it doesn't change the fact that I hate all of them.
And I give Matt Reeves and JJ credit for trying to do something different and whatnot. They kind of got copied to death. But even rewatching it after the theater, I didn't feel it held up on the second rewatch.
Well, part of it's because like the monster himself sucks, right? The monster's a crappy design. Yeah,
because you want a cool looking monster, and you kind of don't. You don't even get a real good look at it, which I think is kind of.
And it doesn't help as well that in the lead up, because of all the mystery in the marketing, like people were genuinely speculating it was Cthulhu, right? So when it turns out to just be generic, and admittedly this was the first I think of this design. But the creature in this, and then the creature in Super 8, and then even and I love 2014's Godzilla, but the Mutos, which Godzilla fights, are kind of...
They're all designed by the same guy. I just watched...
I'm not surprised.
He also did the ones from A Quiet Place. And if you look...
they look the same look.
Insect-like with tall joints, and they move all rickety, and it is creepy, but like, what's cool about Godzilla, right, is all the different designs, Like Anguirus was a ankylosaur, right? Like he didn't look like Godzilla at all. He was on four legs and whatever. Rodan was a pterodactyl, right? Mothra was a moth. They were all these guys look the same, and it's not very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the Mutos in Godzilla though, because they're they're basically the jobbers for Godzilla to fight. So it's fine, but. There's just there's kind of this generic design that's plagued movies with monsters in it for the last like decade or so, and again it was the first time, but even when it came out I remember thinking the monster was one of the weakest parts of it. Is like, them running around scared and all that's fine, but
the part that always sticks with me is the scene in the tunnels, in the subway tunnels. I always felt that was well directed, and because should come as a surprise. Matt Reeves is a very talented director, as we know from his 2 Apes movies.
Oh, no, he is. And that's why I'm excited for... Like, that's the thing. I'm excited for Prey because of Dan Trachtenberg, and I'm excited for The Batman because of Matt Reeves, more than anything.
Right. So, but there were parts that stuck with me. But yeah, with this is very exciting. I threaten my wife with watching Predator at least twice a year. She never wants to watch it with me. So might be time to dust off the Blu-ray.
Bust out Predator, and while you're at it, dust off Predator 2, because that's also very much worth watching.
I still have not seen Predator 2, and I need to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just recently I did a top 10 rotten movies for Male Fuzz Movies. Go check it out, but Predator 2 might have featured on that top 10, so...
Let me see if it's streaming anywhere. Maybe instead of watching Shang-Chi...
it's much better than Shang-Chi. Put that on the next re-release of Predator 2. Much better than Shang-Chi -- Male Fuzz.
Oh my god, it's on Prime? Alright, well, I'm probably going to stay up late and watch both tonight. Predator 2 is on Prime, right as of this
Wise
moment
choice.
as we record.
Come on. Gary Busey, Bill Paxton, Danny Glover, small Adam Baldwin appearance.
So part of the reason why I hadn't seen Predator 2, it was a movie my stepdad was always watching because it was always on cable in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I was just like, he likes this that much? There's no way I'm going to like it. This is the same man that went out of his way to rewatch the extended editions of Lord of the Rings a lot. So I just, whatever he was doing, I didn't want to do. And in this case, it bit me. And I've gotten this far in life not seeing Predator 2. Seen every other Predator. Well, not Requiem, which you'd have to pay me good money to see. Alien vs. Predator Requiem. But yeah, I should rectify that.
Yes, watch Predator 2. It's a sound advice for everyone out there.
Which one is worse, Pete? Predators or The Predator?
I think objectively, The Predator is probably the worst movie. And there's some really weird things in it. I think I like the ideas and what it's trying to be more than Predators, but because Predators is just it's okay. It's just okay.
I like Predators because it's I feel like it's schlocky by design. It feels very B movie.
Yeah, but it's not exciting B movie. It doesn't do enough with anything it's doing.
I've only rewatched when it's been on cable the final sequence, which I really do like. In that one, I haven't rewatched it. I probably need to, but there's a reason for that one. But yeah, this though makes me want to revisit them all except for AVP Requiem, which I still haven't seen. So, I'd like to keep my ledger clean in that one.
Coming from the man who watches a large amount of bad movies. Some of your choices during the Octoberthon were very questionable, if I do say so.
Yeah, we've been over this, but I've also watched a lot of good stuff on there. So, I wasn't even participating in Octoberthon. I was just watching horror movies. Mostly because I'm stuck in quarantine.
That is participating in Octoberthon. That's all it takes to be a part of Octoberthon.
Yeah, but I wasn't gaining for points. I had a lot of rewatches in there.
I wasn't tracking points, but I was still watching things in October. Octoberthon.
It's like I'm keeping my ledger clean with the Leprechaun movies. Still haven't seen those.
Tata will force you into it at some point.
I'm afraid next time I go over to his house when we're visiting, he's gonna have it ready to go, and I'm not gonna be able to tell him no.
He's going to pretend he's going through channels, but he's actually secretly going to the DVR or the...
I'm gonna have to text his wife just to make sure. Can you make sure it's a leprechaun-free zone?
And of course she'll text back yes, and then cut to she's tied in a chair gag, and he's got her phone in his hand. He's like, ha 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 ha. Matt's got to watch Leprechaun.
But yeah, Timmy and Leprechaun.
So yeah.
So I don't know if he actually likes the things he says he likes. I'll never forget his Hellboy review where the new one, he tore it up for an hour and a half and still gave it a 9 out of 10. Don't understand him. That's why we love Timmy.
Yes. Shang-Chi, bland, boring.
I cannot wait for you to. There's nothing about my thoughts about the Eternals. If you want, you can go to my Twitter feed. I can't wait for Pete to watch it in a couple months just to see.
Honestly,
just to see.
What I felt at the end of Shang-Chi was I don't want to watch any Marvel movies for a while. So we'll see if I'm in the mood when it hits. But
we'll see. It's
because it's not like I've liked most of the shows this year either. So I've been in a really muddy place with all this MCU stuff.
I know, and that's why I'm not trying to persuade you, or anything. I just, from what you're saying, I think there's certain things in the Eternals that are much more your speed, and then there's other things that you're gonna be like, why the hell is this 2 hours and 37 minutes? You know, like
I shit you not, there was a moment in Shang-Chi when I was like, okay, I'm starting to get bored. Like I checked the runtime thinking, oh, maybe I've got half an hour left, and I had a full hour of its 2 hour, just over 2 hour runtime. I'm like, oh my god, there's a full hour that's left.
For the people listening, I enjoyed Shang-Chi. Fun time I had. I did get in an argument with my friend over. He goes, I think you just like it because you like going back to the movies and seeing a Marvel movie. You go, you might be right, but it was a good time. I didn't feel like that coming out of Black Widow. So I don't know.
Yeah. Sadly, superhero movies are starting to feel a little bit. I don't know. They need some sauce. They need some spice.
And I can't even rely on Warner's with DC because most of the stuff that's coming out makes me not want to watch any of those. So it's like, I guess I'll just stick to The Boys. That hasn't let me down yet.
The Boys? Yeah, The Boys is great.
But when it comes to superhero, and I do like, unlike Pete, I do majority like the Disney Plus shows from Marvel. So, you know, I have those still to go from. But yeah, hearing a dark version of Green Lantern on HBO Max is on its way.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was this past week or so. Apparently, it's going to be the Green Lantern show is going to be darker than originally planned. And I'm like, what? That's Green Lantern. What, like, how dark do you want it to be?
The brightest day is in the Oath.
Don't get me wrong. It shouldn't be as hopeful as Superman. I'm not saying it should be. No. It's definitely more, I guess, normal. You know, more.
How they were selling it, it made it sound like it was going to be this gritty cop drama, like The Shield in space. And I was like, I don't want that. Give me Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner or Jon Stewart. I don't care. Preferably Guy Gardner, but we know that's never going to happen. Just out there doing space cop stuff. I don't need it to be gritty and underhanded and
it's so, like, what's so funny about it is that like they did the whole goofy like Fantastic Four 2000s-esque movie with you know, Ryan Reynolds, right? That's what that basically was. It was the 2005 Fantastic Four tone in Green Lantern, and because that was such a, you know, failure and everyone hated it, they're so scared to like be even remotely close to it that they're going so far in the opposite direction. It's like, you know, there's a happy medium here. There's a place in the middle that's the right tone.
Right. Like we would like hire the right person. I'm sure it's fine. Like James Gunn hits that balance well with the products he chooses to do. Right. Like Guardians fits his tone well. Suicide Squad fits his tone well. And I just, not everyone that works over with Warner Brothers is a James Gunn. And sometimes I feel like they're trying to fit a niche. And I'm just, as a fan of the comics, I am just like, well, I guess I'm not going to watch this, you know? I'll just watch Stargirl because that has the tone I'm kind of looking for. You know, it can be dark sometimes. It can, you know, be light and fun sometimes. But yeah, I don't want Green Lantern's version of Titans. Or Titans version of Green Lantern. Right? Like, again, miss me with that.
I'm just... Like, what's the version of like F Batman going to be in that? Like,
F Salak, the Guardians. It's F the Guardians is what it is.
Yeah. Or it'll be one of the other Green Lanterns saying F Guy Gardner.
No, I mean, but that's very on brand though. Like, that's not like, hey, they're being edgy. It's like, no, F that guy. Nobody likes Guy Gardner. True. You know.
Does this mean it's going to be like a hard R rating as well? Like, you know, they're going to be dropping F bombs and.
I hope not, because there's a time and place for it. A hard R Sinestro Corps, like done in the style of Saving Private Ryan, the opening scene, now before it gets saccharine and at the end, like, yes, that fits. But like, I don't need Hal Jordan swearing up a storm, you know.
Blackest night and brightest effing day.
Yeah. It's a brightest day and blackest effing night. I just want to know who's making the decisions over there, and just to tell them, please stop.
Oh,
just please stop.
I may have.
That said, I also get to watch Superman and Lois, and from what I've heard, I'm gonna like it. I mean, I've seen 1.5 episodes.
It's mostly good stuff. It's surprisingly solid.
Yeah. So once I get up with Stargirl, I'm gonna go to that one.
Can they keep up the quality with season 2? Remains to be seen, but it's premiering, I believe, I think there's a date in January for season 2. So.
Oh, nice.
So that's interesting. But hey, all right, let's talk about comics then. We got comics to talk about. All right. Robin and Batman issue 1, Jeff Lemire writing, Dustin Nguyen on the art, and I didn't actually realize this was oversized when I started it.
I didn't either because I got this digitally, and so you don't have the feel of it,
the thickness.
Nah.
What's funny is I didn't even realize really until I finished it, and then checked. I was like, oh shit, that was 40 pages, and which is a compliment because it flowed so quick that I never felt it.
The only reason I felt it is because I was trying to read it on a break and didn't realize it was oversized. So I had allowed myself time to read. And as I was getting done with it, as my break was coming to an end, I was like, how much more do I have to go? And I was still only on like page 30. So I had to come back to it. But again, that's not the quality. I wasn't like, oh, when is this going to be done? Because it does a lot of fun stuff that I was, to be honest, like I like Lemire a lot and I like Nguyen a lot. They're a good team. I don't know how many more Robin origin kind of stories I need. It's almost up there with Batman Origins. However, this team, I think, judging from how this ended, I think they have a unique take on Dick Grayson that I definitely can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, what's interesting about this, so it's from Robin's perspective more than Batman's, and it's very much a Dick Grayson who's just training to be Robin, is just signed up to be Robin in the months following the death of his parents. And what's interesting about this is that this very much wants to explore the psychology of what it's like for him being indoctrinated into Batman's world and what it's like for him trying to fit into it, and his own personal journey of like, how do I become like him? Do I want to become like him? And ultimately, it seems like part of the point of this is the idea that he's going to have to be himself rather than, the next Bruce, right? And that's that's a common theme that we hear talked about a lot when it comes to the adult version of Dick, is that he didn't grow up to be the next Batman. Even if he puts on the kill, he's his own version of Batman. But the important part is that he is him. And that's something that even Bruce himself will constantly say, I didn't, take Dick in to be the next me. I took him in to be better than me. So,
So, yeah, so that's what I always like too, is that, that he doesn't want to be the next Bruce because, that's not who Dick Grayson is, right? That they have processed their trauma differently with Bruce versus with Dick. And so this whole thread of this one, like him not wanting to be Batboy and then ultimately making the decision to do the reverse colors, right? Like I'm not going to wear dark and hide in the shadow, or wear dark colors, hide in the shadows. I'm going to be bright and, the red and the yellow and the green. And just the whole reason behind that is almost not out of spite, but to be his own person. Like from the, young mind of Dick Grayson, it seems like it's kind of out of spite. But
it kind of is, but
you can tell where it is.
It kind of is because he is a kid, but it's like this challenging your parental figure kind of thing. Batman's limiting him, telling him that he's not ready, giving him into trouble, and he wants to sort of lash out and rebel. So he kind of, part of that rebellion for him is to go with the bright colors. So, but anyway, to work through the book though, so the story starts with him. He's actually out on a mission and he's beating up some thugs, some guys that are robbing a truck. And he's wearing like an all black suit. It's not like a full fledged bat suit. It's like a hoodie with a belt. It's not, it's like a makeshift training outfit. And Batman's on the comms like telling him instructions, and he's saying that he's not paying enough attention. He's not watching his surroundings. To quote Batman Begins, never learn to watch your surroundings. But Dick kind of like shows that he does have some skill. He does take down most of the bad guys. But he misses one right, when Batman shows up and Dick's been a little bit cocky and says, "See, I told you I had it under control." Batman throws a batarang and like hits the guy behind him. And all this art, of course, Dustin Nguyen, super moody, with the watercolors and
the watercolors match Gotham in a way that they shouldn't, right? Because like we're seeing Gotham with the dark, heavy lines, but just the watercolors work, and he's been doing Batman work forever. At this point, like I can't remember not seeing Dustin Nguyen like Batman pieces.
Yeah, and
So
it's one of those things where just a simple, because they tend to be very monotone in color, right? More or less. Whereas a lot of this first scene is just all kind of whites, blues, and grays. But then you get to the car ride home where they're sitting in awkward silence, because Dick's feeling like he's in trouble. Bruce is mad at him, and but you just have this bathing red light, and it kind of mimics the idea of street light, coming through the window, but it has this tone on it the entire time. But yeah, they get back, and like Alfred and Bruce disagree with how to deal with Dick, and it's very interesting because Bruce is arguing that Dick, he's still acting like a child. He's having temper tantrums when he should be acting like a soldier, and because if I don't, if I don't train him properly, if I don't get him to do this right, I'm going to be bringing home a dead child. And Alfred, with a very on-point, catty response, although with a lot of meaning behind this one, says, "No, you'd rather bring home a dead soldier," which is a very interesting. It's a layered point to make because you kind of get the meaning behind it. That he's saying that not so much that at least if he dies he'll still be himself. It's more that he's making the point that him changing who he is to fit into Bruce's mold.
You rather have a dead soldier. You rather have him come home dead but well trained than let him be himself. That the one thing that stood out to me at first was the voice here with Bruce and Alfred, who I feel like Alfred can say sassy things because that's Bruce's dad, right? Like, so here when he stops him, when he goes, he's acting like a child, and Alfred goes, "Well, if I may, sir," and he goes, "No, you may not," or along those lines. It didn't ring true to me, but then later, it keeps going, where Alfred kind of calls him out. Still, Alfred still gets his word in, but just that initial tone there.
You get the feeling that bringing Dick into the fold has kind of thrown this, not wrench,
dynamic
but
off.
This dynamic's a little bit different because now Alfred's kind of judging Bruce a little bit for what he's doing, and also the idea that, like, there's a line, I can't remember what the exact line is, I'd have to find it, but there's a line that made me sort of, like, Alfred says that kind of points out that, it talks about raising Bruce and how Bruce would only let him like help with his mission, but everything else he would like shut Alfred off from, and he's kind of telling him to do the same with Dick. And Alfred makes a comment about how, "Oh, that seems to be all I am ever allowed to do." Is that? And it was kind of this little pointed moment again of like pointing out like, you're trying to make me only deal with Dick in the same way that you let me deal with you, and pointing out those similarities. And we cut to Dick in school, and he's yawning, and there's a lot of stuff like him in his journal and his narration talks a lot about how he's kind of like, he thought he'd be going into like some sort of fantasy where he's with a knight and a hero, and it's actually more of a nightmare, and he's he's mad in school, he's thinking of his parents, and he's thinking about how, well, no, he needs his own name, he needs his own outfit. There's even a joke here about having a dark name like Nighthawk or Nightwing, which I'll be honest, I could have probably done without the Nightwing name drop. Yeah,
it's a little bit like him. I kind of do like it because it shows that he does have this idea from the beginning. He doesn't want, like, unlike this, where we always talk about the difference between like Dick Grayson and Tim Drake, is like Dick is always a reluctant Batman, right? When he's had to wear the cowl, it's not because he wants to. He feels like he has to. First, I feel like that Tim very much wants to take that mantle. And here, I think this shows too that like he doesn't want to be Bat. He wants to be his own. Like even thinking of names that aren't even close to Bat. Right?
Yeah, he
like,
wants to be something
get away from that.
Completely different. Yeah. And the other thing here as well is he talks in his narration about how, like, he starts thinking about his parents and what happened to them when he's in a normal part of life, when he's in school, when he's doing normal human things day to day. Like the nightmare, the being the Batman sidekick and the mission. It's almost like a really understandable coping mechanism because if nothing else, it's a distraction from like thinking about and accepting what his life actually is and what he's went through. So I think the book's done a good job of like getting into the psychology of not only just being indoctrinated into what Batman's doing, but how Dick himself is letting it happen because it is actually helping him cope with like what's happened to him recently. And that's because one of the more vulnerable moments that I really liked is that when he's coming out of school and he sees the car and he's like, oh, if Bruce is here to pick me up, that means we're probably doing some early training, and it means he's like motivated, it means he's thinking about me. And then when he sees Alfred, he's disappointed, and Alfred even picks up on this. But they are here when he's disappointed is really good, because like it's the same panel basically of his face looking happy and then looking sad after he sees Alfred at the bottom of the page. And I love how it mirrors the same. It's almost the exact same 4 panels as when Batman's driving him home in the Batmobile earlier on, where it's more talky, of course, because Alfred's willing to talk. So it's contrasting Bruce and Alfred quite nicely, but it's it's not bathed in red like it was with Batman, but it's very similar storytelling in that it's these 4 horizontal panels, and it's just really. Alfred's head's the exact same in every one. He could have just copied his work if he wanted to. It's just Dick's head that's moving around and like thinking and commenting and things. So really neat. But like he has a little tantrum when he gets back because Alfred suggests, oh, maybe in a few years you can like take up this fight, but you could focus on your studies now. So he actually goes and makes his own outfit. He makeshifts his own Robin outfit and goes out to prove himself. I love the transition here because he ends his narration with this is going to really piss him off, and then it cuts to Batman. And this is the first time we even hear Batman's narration in the whole book. And he just says, this really pisses me off. He's not talking about Robin, but it's funny. But by the way, that panel of him, swinging through the city might be the most gorgeous. Yes, this is it's beautiful. The watercolors of the buildings, it just looks really nice. But basically, he's investigating the thieves from before. He had Gordon let them out because he suspected there was something going on that he couldn't figure out, because they were stealing from meat trucks like multiple times. It's like there's something fishy here. Yeah,
they weren't robbing meat; they were robbing food. It felt like they were trying to, which that set off I was like, oh, okay, I think I know where this is going. They're jumping down into the sewers.
So and it teases the Robin outfit because we see the green boots before we get the full reveal of him in the sewer. And it's this, makeshift outfit that he's made. And one of the things I really liked is that the colors of his costume really pop because the backgrounds are very monotone. Sometimes they've got a splash of color, but it'll all be one color more or less. Whereas Robin's bright colors of the red, the green, the yellow all really stick out against the muted watercolors in the background. And Dick runs into Killer Croc. We get a full page of it, and it shows you how big Killer Croc is compared to Dick. Yep. He just towers over him. And he just kind of says hello. Dick tries to fight him. A couple of nice pages here with the fight. Batman obviously shows up and is able to get Dick away. Is pissed at him, of course. Yells at him.
Well, yeah, he ends up getting a bunch of broken ribs for his troubles.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to save Dick and threw him off his game, which I also like, too, that Dick being there when he didn't think he would does throw Bruce enough off that he gets hurt. And this is kind of why it also reinforces why Dick needs to train more, right? Like him going off and doing his own thing does have consequences.
Because that's the other thing that you mentioned is that Dick kind of like thinks to himself, maybe this is a test to show my independence if I go and do something. Yeah. And when they get back to the Batcave after this, he's like, because Batman calls his costume ridiculous, and he's like, it's not ridiculous, it's my family's, and he goes, I know it was, that's why I made this, and he shows him the Robin costume that he made, which is the exact same color scheme, it's got the R, but Dick realizes that he's been looking at his journal, and that's why he knows how to make this, and he gets pissed. He feels that he has no privacy. Batman's like, oh, we can't keep any secrets, blah 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 blah, and it's like Dick's like, no, this was meant to be mine, just mine, like
but there is a right to privacy story here.
Absolutely, but it's also kind of sweet though, right? Like the Batman had this made. Like I felt like it was like, as far as fatherhood moments for Batman goes, this was like, oh man, he made him a Robin outfit.
Right, but in doing it in a very Batman way, where he was like, I'm going to read through his journal, which is a big no-no, and he doesn't understand because he's not a parental figure yet. He's still learning. Like Dick is still learning to be Dick Grayson, whereas Bruce has to remember how to be Bruce Wayne and not Batman.
I think that story is obviously Dick being himself, but it's also Batman learning to let him be himself. This is in a way that maybe I've not quite seen before. I don't think. I feel like this is really trying to tackle how their relationship actually forms at this early stage in their time together. So that's really smart. But we get that scene afterwards as Robin kind of repeats the opening narration of the book. We see Killer Croc in a hat and coat, no less.
I love it.
Venture up to what's left of Haley's circus and sort of like wanders around. And we get this like flashback. Basically, he recognized Dick because he used to like be like a sideshow attraction at the circus. He's in the water, and he looks up at the Flying Graysons poster because he recognized the colors more than anything, probably.
And when you go back and revisit that scene with Croc when he catches Robin, he goes, "Hey, kid," right? And then he goes, "Hey, where'd you get those colors from?" Now, this might have been a blind spot, but tying Killer Croc to Haley Circus, I don't know if that's been done, but it's a pretty genius move.
Yeah, it may be new. It may be something that's pulling on a bit of history, but I actually kind of like it.
Yep. And it makes... I mean, this is where I realize I have a type for Batman villains where I like the kind of sympathetic ones more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love Ivy and Two-Face and Croc even. It might have been last week. I couldn't figure out who to put in my third spot because I said, who are your top Batman villains that aren't Joker and Harley? I was like, well, this is easy. And those aren't even in my top as it goes, right? And I had a hard time, and I put Killer Croc there. Then seeing him in the trench coat and hat, I was like, oh, okay, he's a monster. I like monsters. But then seeing him poke out as the crocodile boy and like looking at the Graysons and like there's a sense of longing there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Just the sympathetic monster, gets me. And Lemire does that very well.
Yeah. I totally dig this. At least on its own. I do think, and obviously this is kind of out of continuity. Although, I mean, much like a lot of Batman individual books, you can kind of like headcanon them into like being part of the overall, tapestry if you want to. Because technically Long Halloween's not in continuity, but we kind of treat it like it is in a lot of ways. But in the grand scheme of things, I would say that, we've already turned Man-Bat and Clayface sympathetic. I don't know if we necessarily... Like, I kind of like the idea of one of the monstrous Batman villains just remaining monstrous, and Killer Croc can be a pretty scary dude in the sewers if they treat him that way.
But if you can keep him to, he's more friendly when it comes to Dick because of the tie to the circus. Almost like he has a sense of family. I think that works. Just, he doesn't always have to.
It totally does on its own. I'm just saying that I don't want Clayface, Killer Croc, and Man-Bat to all be sympathetic in the same world.
I mean, that's how we get a new Gotham City Monsters book, Pete. It's there.
I think it's too much of too many villains becoming more anti-heroes, but on its own, I love it.
This was a thing that I was hinting at earlier that I love. Like, of course he was a circus sideshow with the way that he looks, and the fact that he was having his goons rob stuff for food, probably for himself, right? Like he's got to eat to keep up that size,
which is more sympathetic than normal because it means he's not eating people. He's
right, exactly, and that's the thing with me that I was thinking of is like he's not out there murking guys. He's sure he's robbing food trucks, but those are insured. So, yeah. But just this whole sequence it's all done in grays, and the circus is kind of lit up with the Robin colors. It's a lot of yellows and reds, which are kind of those are the Flying Grayson colors. So, it really pops.
I think, the story beats here. The idea that if the bright colors of Robin can lighten up Killer Croc and make him sympathetic, then maybe it can do the same for Batman. Like, obviously Batman's not as, villainous as Killer Croc, but and then the themes of the story, the idea that this will lighten up Batman a little bit ultimately if he lets Robin change him just a touch. So there's a sweet story in here as well that I can definitely see us getting to by the end of the part 3. But I dug this a lot. I mean, I don't know if that was clear from the conversation, but this was a very well written book. It was very easy to read.
Shocking coming from Jeff Lemire. Right?
I know. This is going to be such an easy recommendation to like go along with your standalone Bat books that kind of fill in the early like career parts of various characters. You go, yeah. But it doesn't quite fit with say a Robin Year One or other stories, but you can slot it in there as one of the versions of the Robin early days stuff to add to your Bat sort of shelf. So
yeah,
really really solid. I felt it. The art's obviously wonderful. Very distinct tone. And Dustin Nguyen's an artist that I wouldn't want on like a lot of regular comics necessarily, but for the creator-owned stuff that he does with other people, and for like standalone stories like this, it works beautifully. Really specific tone that you get and vibe from his art.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What are you giving it? We giving Robin and Batman?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Yeah, I don't want to go as high as a 9. I think the I think the psychology and the relationship between Bruce and Dick, and like Dick dealing with how Bruce is treating him, but also realizing that Bruce is making mistakes and has to learn stuff too. I think that's been handled really well, and there's a lot of good character work happening here that I'm ready to dig. So that's cool. That's Robin and Batman issue 1. Batman the Imposter issue 2. Mattson, Tomlin writing with Andrea, Sorrentino on art. We raved about issue 1 of this, and I suspect we're going to do something similar with issue 2.
Yeah, maybe not as much, because this kind of felt hit a little bit of bumps, I feel, with the story. But it's hard to be mad when you're looking at the Sorrentino art and how well how cinematic Sorrentino can be. Just the fight sequences in this one, because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, it uses the Leslie Tompkins therapy sessions again as a framing device, and we see her even talking to Bruce as a kid, presumably one of the first times she ever met him, when he was an angry little kid. We get a sense that the Alfred of this world actually gets scared away because he couldn't put up with Bruce's shit.
not much of a fan of that, because I feel like Alfred's always Bruce's conscience, and I don't like the idea of a Bruce without an Alfred.
Maybe that's like part of what the concept of this story is, though, is that
it could be.
Bruce is the way he is in this particular Batman because he doesn't have an Alfred that stuck by him.
Right, but I don't know. He still comes off very much as the Bruce that's familiar later. There's not a lot of drawbacks to that,
because Leslie's starting to fill that role.
Maybe. I was waiting for that to be like the butler that quit is how we get Alfred, right? They need that guy almost in the Earth One way where Alfred was brought in as like a security expert, but seeing this traumatized kid who just saw his parents murdered in front of him, he decides he's going to be this guy's guardian. And I was kind of hoping something along these lines of how we're going to get this Alfred, and then he just takes off, and we never see this Alfred again. So that's a weird story quibble, but
Elseworld stuff. I'm ready to roll with it. Basically, so yeah, Bruce keeps showing up later and later to these therapy sessions, but he does show up. He shows up bloody and bruised, and he's investigating the imposter. Of course, he broke into Wesker's building, which that 2-page layout and.
So good.
Just a squeaky you opening that bottle.
Sorry.
But yeah, like the classic, like the back cape all sprawled out on the black and white background image, with all the little panels in front of him with the grappling gun. But yeah, it's him breaking in and beating up some security guards, but he makes a mistake. He doesn't hit hard enough, as he points out. So again, it's an early Batman. He's making mistakes, but ultimately, because Wesker's got this like surveillance system where he's like tapped into the entire city's security and like cameras and all that, he wants access to it. So that's what he's here for. All of this art, though, this fight with him and the security guards, that ends with like he's getting, because he jumps out the window, but you see the one guard's like hand grab the cape, and then the next page he's being strangled, and he has to like cut off part of his own cape with his little blade. All that really good stuff, but he ends up, it's almost like a horror story. He ends up in wherever the ventriloquist his hangout is.
The living quarters. Where Wesker says later,
where he's been building all of these like dolls and puppets, and we actually get like a scene of him like holding Scarface, and like it's like, hey, ask him to kill your dad. So he asks Batman to kill his father, and Batman of course just leaves. And tells Leslie to tell it. But the art and all this is great. Like it's super moody, super like dark, and like just a little bit macabre and nasty.
It's creepy. It's the way that it's doing with the lack of color, because it's only black, white, and red, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's just, and he's holding Scarface not in the way that we're used to, but almost cradling him.
Yeah, if the only critique I really have is that because of this, it's like a black background and all the panels take place in these diamond panels, is that the red diamonds made me think of Harley Quinn. that was the only. I thought, is this a Harley Quinn thing? And no, it's not. It's just Scarface and the ventriloquist.
It's just a way that I feel like that Sorrentino decided to plot out how the flow was going to go. But I thought Harley as well.
Yeah.
So.
But then we cut back to what the cliffhanger the first book was, which is Detective Wong coming to speak to Bruce, and he kind of like has a good answer for everything. He talks about how he's not really that connected to the company. You'll look into it. I'll tell the accountants you're coming, and kind of fobs her off. But he reveals that it's sort of really casually just in like a panel where he's looking up her history, and it mentions that she saw her parents be killed, much like Bruce did. And he kind of says, "Oh, I've got an in here. Like I can talk to her and get more information about the imposter," because he's coming up a bit short. So the middle part of the book is very much him getting close to Detective Wong and effectively flirting with her, asking for information, and even kind of it seems like he does kind of fall for her, and it's in that Bruce way where he's still going to use her for information, but he does seem to have feelings for her.
Well, he recognizes that she still is a really good detective, without just needing to use her, like that she kind of figured out he's Batman with very minimal evidence, and now he just has to lead her away from that. Yeah, and I did like the buy in bulk line. Like she knocks on the door and he says something about wanting some chai tea, and he goes, "Yeah, I buy everything in bulk," which then comes into play when he's talking about all the motorcycles that went missing.
Yeah, because he basically he plants an excuse in the paperwork, which is that a container went missing. But it's like we have so much stuff coming in that one container's like a bit of a write off. It's not a police matter. But he even does this like really coy thing with her where like she says, "Oh, you thought we had a bunch in common because we both saw our parents be murdered," and he's like, "Well, no, because we both like dropped out of Yale."
We both dropped out of the Ivy League. And she's like, she is mortified.
It's so good, and because that's what he meant. Like he intentionally did this because this is a bonding moment, and it's very manipulative. But he does ask her out and says, "You want to talk about our time in Brazil?" And I love how it switches to like a stark white background as we see them holding hands and being on a date, and she's got the red jacket on. So you've got the black and white with her in red, and all the bats flying around. That 2-page spread is absolutely beautiful, and it kind of shows it's almost like the bats all flying all around them. We talk about butterflies in the stomach when you feel love. Yeah. So the idea for him it's bats. It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, Bruce has bats in his belfry.
His belly free.
Yeah, there you go, belly free.
But yeah, so when she's asleep though, he like steals her like laptop and looks up some stuff and not
good behavior on a first date. That's for sure.
But he gets like information on the imposter, and it leads him ultimately to which, by the way, actually, just as I'm skipping ahead to get to this next important part, there's a sign in the street at one point when he's walking through the street saying Gotham Film Studios coming soon. Is that just like a wink and a nod because the writer of the next movie is doing this?
I think so. So I looked this up too. He did an uncredited rewrite. Not uncredited. He's not credited on The Batman like I thought he was. No, but he did work on it. So maybe, I'm not sure. Like I'm pretty sure. Oh, because a lot of this feels like it's set in that world. It's just slightly off. It's very gritty from what we've seen from trailers and whatnot. So, but maybe you're right. Maybe he's writing the next one, right?
I think this is far too specific at this point to be connected to the new movie.
And this is what made me, once we started getting to her backstory and some of the other stuff that happened here, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is kind of it's the essence of the new movie, but this is its own story.
Yeah. But to show that again that they're very equally matched in terms of skills in a lot of ways, like Wong basically has the same idea that he did, where she goes to Wesker. He's demanding, hey, that Batman broke into my building. I want something done about it. He's like, look, if you want us to catch him, like, give me access to your surveillance network. So she's effectively using the same resources that he is. She has the same idea to track down. I mean, she doesn't realize she's looking for an imposter, of course. She thinks she's just looking for the Batman. But we get this thing where they both track down Ratcatcher's like van. Like, they see footage of this imposter with Ratcatcher, and it's like, okay, so they said that obviously that was a cliffhanger at the end of the last issue. This Ratcatcher dude, I said, you know what I mean? Like, we know who the Ratcatcher is, but like in terms of this book, it was this guy who's becoming the Ratcatcher. He was brought on as an ally to this imposter. And I love the panel here actually of like Batman driving the bike past her in the car, and it felt like a really epic kind of moment because they're both racing to the same location, and they get there. Batman, of course, there's a whole scene here. It's wonderful action where they're in the car with Ratcatcher. The police have apprehended him, and like Wong to her partner's like, hey, you know, watch out for bat ears, and there's just this great sequence of like Batman throwing like a smoke bomb at the car, and like she gets out, and it all goes white because of the smoke, and the only color on the page is a little bit of red on her face from blood that she cut her head in the impact. But this is like Batman like stealing Ratcatcher from the police, and she actually has him at gunpoint, and he actually fight her a little bit. And it feels like a big showdown because the book's done a really good job of treating her as an equal to Batman in terms of skill, in terms of how important she is. So this feels like two of our main characters facing off. It really feels I guess it's akin as anything else to like Batman and Gordon in year one. It feels like the two leads and the two important characters are finally coming face to face. I mean, they technically already have. She doesn't know that, but as Batman, it's the first time they're coming face to face. So it feels like a really big moment, and the book crescendos really well to it, and it's gorgeous to look at as well. So Batman tortures Ratcatcher a bit to get some information.
Just that sequence, though, because we got such the introduction to Ratcatcher last time and how much sympathy they built, because you're just like, this guy is like legit just misunderstood. And then as he's basically doing the dunk take treatment where he's dunking his head under and then asking him questions. When he doesn't get the answer he wants, it's back under, and Ratcatcher's like, I don't understand, I'm your friend. And it's like, this just poor guy, like, you feel
kind of bad for him.
Yeah, because he's mixed up in something that has really nothing to do with him, right? The imposter came to him because of his, he's familiar with the tunnels of Gotham and whatnot, and we through the detective and through Batman, we find out that this has to do with judges.
One in particular, who like all of his cases, like, or not all, but like a lot of his cases got overturned because he got exposed as corrupt. And all the victims, all these criminals that the imposter's been killing have all been people, as Batman puts it here towards the end, he says, this is actually my mess that he's cleaning up, in his way. It's not a way obviously Bruce approves of, but
he's cleaning up the mess, and Gordon is no longer on the police department because he was tied up in it as well because of his dealings with Batman, and that this judge, all his cases basically got thrown out because of the corruption. And that Gordon was working with Batman, so he gets tossed. And so, this imposter is going around as Batman cleaning up this mess. And I thought that was a nice little turn.
Yeah, he gets a lot of that from the stuff that he steals from our computer. Yeah. The ending is basically just Wong's breaking into the evidence locker because she's, as her partner puts it, you're going to war, because she's like stealing the heavy duty machine guns. And it ends in this really dark, because we spoke about how some of the pages are like ultra white with just like the black highlights or shadows to like create the high contrast image. This is the opposite. This is them in shadows doing something they're not supposed to. When she says, because when he asked the question, are you planning to go to war? When she says, yeah, pretty much, you coming? Like, she is in so much shadow on that page. Like, a bit of her cheek and her nose is really all you see. And her partner, who feels like he's a bit less of a noble cop, kind of smirks. And that's kind of that's the cliffhanger. That's where we end on. It feels like
her permission. He just got permission from her to go crack some heads.
It also, yeah, and it also feels like her encounter with Batman and Batman actually like kicking her down and like making her feel small by telling her to stay down. Because and obviously we know that Batman's saying that because he doesn't want to fight her. He wants her to just back down so he can do what he's doing. But like from her, you can kind of get how that might motivate her to be like, no, I'm going to like. Not only that does this interaction feel belittling to her, she also thinks this guy is going around killing people and she has to stop him. So like she doesn't know it's two separate people. She doesn't know it's an imposter. So
it's just Batman.
Yeah. So this, yeah. I mean, I love this issue. This was another fantastic issue.
I just the whole romancing angle was something I wasn't expecting, and it kind of made it a little bit choppy. And the fact that has a similar background to him too, I thought it's a little bit on the nose, but we'll see where that goes. But it's still very good. Like the story, I'm still, once we got to the part with the judges and how this deals with this is not just a Batman without Alfred. It's also Batman without Gordon, and that changes things as well. So yeah.
I'm excited to see. I actually not. Is this 3 or 4 books? I can't remember. I'm hoping it's 4 because I feel like we've got 2 books left of material.
Yeah, I think it's 4. Let me check as I'm.
But if there's only 1 left, then damn, I can't believe we only have like 1/3 left. But the art is gorgeous throughout, which is no surprise, consistent with the first one. But I think it's done a really good job with this Detective Wong character, where she feels super important in this story. It does a good job of building her up and making her feel, the comparisons to Batman feel very valid. I think because we're treating her as, she's a new character, we've introduced her, they're not trying to put her into Batman's past, they're just giving her a similar backstory. That is far more cool with me than what they do a lot of the times with like, oh, so-and-so was in Batman's past and is connected to what happened to him. Yeah, Ghostmaker being the more recent
it is
example.
only 3 issues.
So
there's only 1 more.
Damn. Well, I'm excited to find out who the imposter is, and I'm excited for the true head-to-head, because I'm assuming she's going to figure out who Batman is by the end. She's going to see it's Bruce. And I'm excited to see what the resolution to that is. I guess the only complaint I have is that it feels like there's so much story potential left to do that I don't know how much, what we're doing in this final issue. I know it's going to be 50 pages, but and again, 50 pages flew in. This was not a hard read at all. The craft on display here and the flow of the book is just exceptional. So, it's an exploration of Batman. I'm super into it. So, all right, what are you rating Batman the Imposter issue 2?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Honest, I'm putting it on 9. That's 2 9s so far.
There you go.
It may not be a lot of books this week, but it's been a good week so far. So moving on then. Wonder Woman issue 781, Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad writing with Marcio Takara on the art. So I had dropped this a few issues into all the Asgard and Earth and like all that shit.
Once it got mythological, Pete was like, all right, I'm tapping out. You and Connor can read it. And then once we get back to Earth, if it sounds like more my speed, I'll jump back in.
And and part of it was, I thought the chapter they did in the special, the anniversary special, I thought that was pretty solid. And it's not that I hate the writers' voices. I just a lot of the stuff they were doing in the mythical realm just felt like a time waster, to be honest. So I was curious enough to check it out, and it was quite a week as well, which helps. So this is, and it does work. Honestly, this issue does work decently as a jumping on point. There's definitely references to things that were happening in the book. Obviously, Diana and Deadman are pretty chummy, so that's something that was obviously comes out of the previous arc.
Here's the thing. I like to think I'm pretty well versed in Deadman. Have we ever seen him like long-term possessing a corpse in this way? I can't remember it.
I can't think of an example. But it didn't. But at the same time, though, it didn't surprise me, which makes me think I have seen it.
Well, I like it because, he doesn't have to possess somebody that's not willing, right? Like, and just take over their whole thing. He went to the morgue, jumped in a dead body, now he's like, all right, we have a time limit because his body's gonna start rotting.
Yeah,
And
he's got like a. I mean, she jokes later on that he looks like a vampire. So I guess like that, it'll look like a vampire for a while, and then he'll just start to look more and more like a zombie as time goes on.
And he has the autopsy marks on his chest that stick out through the shirt. I just thought, Takara's art here, I was blown away. I was not ready for it to look this good.
Oh yeah, Takara's a really solid artist.
Yeah, but this took a whole new level. I feel like this.
I remember Takara. What book was it? Takara was on, but it was they were alternating with another artist, and the other artist was one that I liked even more. So Takara's art
Flash.
Was it Flash? But it kind of suffered almost because it was like up against something else that So it was I think this shows though that very dependable artist, Takara on their own. So, so the start of the book is Diana and Etta just at lunch talking about her being back, what's going on. The main thing that comes out of it is that she's avoiding Steve. She doesn't want it to seem like she's avoiding Steve, but she kind of is. She's too scared to go see Steve. Yeah. So that's because that story in the special was about Steve like missing her and how he was going through that loss, and like because of that, it was kind of exciting, the idea that okay, like we're now seeing it from her perspective, but she's intimidated to go back and interact with him. But Dr. Psycho ends up on the TV.
This guy.
I know.
I'm so glad that this isn't one of the rotating cast of villains. I feel like we need more Dr. Psycho because he is so. For everything I was talking about Croc and Robin and Batman about being sympathetic, there's not one ounce of sympathy for Dr. Psycho.
No, he's a little bastard. That's just what he is, and he should be. Or Dr. Sizgo. I'll be honest, I could, if you'd asked me before I read this issue what Dr. Psycho's actual name was, I would never be able to
Which is why he's called Dr. Psycho, because I think it's pretty close.
Very memorable. But they see him on the news, talking about stuff, and he's got a new book coming out, and like Diana's all like, I'm gonna have to go and check up on this little shithead because he's up to no good, because he always is.
He's talking about on a news network that that he's he has his book out.
Yes.
This is the first thing I read this week. It's been a minute.
My little struggle.
Yes. And so of course she doesn't trust that, so she goes to the station where he's broadcasting from, and just completely creepy scene, just his eyes poking through in that way.
Well, that's why I point out the art of her arriving there and stopping the car, it's all I think what I like most about the art actually is the coloring. I like the kind of the golden tone to everything. It's got a warm color palette, which I really like. But the eyes behind the window as it rolls down, and he's basically like, oh, you want an autograph? That'll be $50. And she's like, come on now, I can smell your schemes from a mile away. What's going on? And she drops a Klingon reference. She says,
does?
Justice isn't a dish you can serve cold.
Oh, man.
Old Klingon proverb, revenge is a dish best served cold.
Right, I didn't realize that was a Klingon thing, though.
It's why at the start of, I think it's Kill Bill, Tarantino has it as a quote, and it says old Klingon proverb.
Gotcha. Pete, I'm not that familiar with Kill Bill. I've seen it a couple times. I did not remember that's how it starts, but that is fantastic on the writer's parts.
But anyways, basically she's like, I'm going to expose your schemes, and he's like, look, I have nothing to say to you, woman, go away, bye bye. Like even the way he says bye bye at the end as he's rolling up the window just like has a bit of a tone to it, which is really nice.
He's talking down to her, even though as we know, he's very diminutive.
So what I liked about the reason why she actually ends the conversation is because she hears someone yelling for help, and she flies off. And she gets to this construction site, and there's a construction worker who's like, standing on a ledge, and he's going to jump. And very quickly, the way he starts talking to her, it becomes clear that this is Dr. Psycho, who just took control of this guy to distract her so he could get away. And just everything about this scene where he makes this guy sort of like just fall off the ledge as he goes, ta-da. Or no, it goes ta-ta. Ta-ta, Diana.
Ta-ta, Diana.
Yeah. And she has to like pull him up, and the guy wakes up and becomes himself as he's dangling with the lasso. He's like, oh my god, what's going on? And she's like, it's okay, I've got you. It's okay. I like this because this was a really nice example of what Dr. Psycho can do. It shows his threat, He's such a little shit. It made me realize actually that Dr. Psycho and Maxwell Lord do share some similar power set stuff between them. But
yeah, definitely. And it's with Max Lord though, it seems to be more in a how can it benefit him, because he really believes in an order, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where with Psycho, he's just all about himself. How's this going to benefit him? So I do like that there is a difference. Like they're two sides of the same coin, But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so she goes to Deadman. Her logic here is that she has to sort of deal with any emotional stuff she's dealing with because it can be exploited. And I feel like she's focusing on the sword she's got from the dude that she met. Was it Siegfried?
Yeah, it's Siegfried Soyd Graham.
Yeah, so this is obviously some of the stuff that's more connected to the last arc. So honestly, it's not too much to deal with. It's just a MacGuffin. She has to deal with it, and I wasn't really left caring or wondering, about any details. I was just kind of cool with it, because what I like about this is that ultimately she's going to realize that her avoiding Steve is going to be the real weakness emotionally. Like if he's going to exploit an emotional weakness, it's going to be that. But she goes to Deadman, who's in this corpse body, and he's living in a mansion that's been abandoned for now because no one's dealt with it after whoever died. I don't know if he ever says it was the guy who died that he's in, he's in, if it was his place, or if it's just someone else's place that's been left abandoned, but it doesn't really matter.
No.
But he holds the sword, Siegfried's sword, and it tells him where his remains. Yeah. And it's okay, what's left of the body, at least we can go find it and we can put it at rest. And what's interesting is you think she's going to see Steve before she goes, because we cut to Steve and it looks like Wonder Woman, but she's all in shadows, kind of weird, and then the speech bubble is kind of weird as well because it's all jagged and it says, "Yes, I am she, I am Wonder Woman," almost like a robot, and immediately tries to kill Steve, and she's got it's not a Joker face, but she's smiling kind of weird at him. It's very creepy.
It's very Uncanny Valley. Right,
it's like a doll. It's like she's she's definitely fake, whatever she is, and she punches the shit out of Steve a little bit. He eventually pulls out a gun, and when he shoots her though, she shatters almost not quite. I wouldn't say quite like glass. It's more like
she definitely fractures.
Yeah, but it's she fractures in this kind of weird way where it leaves a hole, and it's all these shattered parts of her. It's almost like she's made it of I don't know, probably some alien material, knowing
or
comics.
Crystal, right?
Yeah, but it's very flaky. It looks like a lot of flakes as it's flying back. And then we cut to Dr. Psycho, who's going to pick up something that he's bought from a mysterious, black market dealer. And there's a little joke here with a guy at the door who's got a little slidey peephole, can't see him because he's too short.
I'm right here, you dullard.
Yeah,
I just man, taking shots at Psycho, not just because he's short, but because he's terrible.
Yeah, I think Joey makes some work. I think his dialogue, which I think this book does a really good job at, he's saying things like dullard and the way he speaks to Wonder Woman, they make him such a little shit that it's so fun to watch him get shit on. It really is. So this guy's procured whatever this, we don't get to see what it is, but he's got it in a guitar case because he doesn't have another case for it. And the little joke here is that Psycho made him think he was looking at stacks of cash, but it's actually just bits of blank paper. So he's living classic Dr. Psycho. I mean, really.
Yep.
And then we cut to Diana and Deadman on the plane. And she explains that sometimes it's nice to just enjoy the trip and not be in control for a change, which is why they're not just flying normally to where they're going. And she talks a little bit about Steve again. And the end of the issue though is that she looks out the window of the plane and she sees multiple fake Dianas, so just like the one Steve fought, presumably, all flying through the air next to the plane. And it says next nightmare at 20,000 feet. If the next issue is all set in this plane, I'll be delighted. I don't think it will be, but that'd be a really fun.
But that'll be cool,
fun
right?
Story. Yeah. I thought this was really good. Obviously, there's some sort of threads that are lingering from the previous arc that I didn't finish, and But I don't think it hurts too much.
This is a good place to jump on because they're kind of just hinting towards stuff. So like, you don't need to be intimately aware of her relationship with Siegfried in Valhalla. You just have to know she's returning this warrior sword to its final resting place. Yeah. Which is a very Diana thing to do, right?
The Dr. Psycho stuff felt nice and jump-onable. Everyone reacting to her being back and her reluctance to see Steve. Like, maybe I'd say if you haven't read the story from the special, it'd be worth reading, but you don't need to. Like, as long as you know she was gone and she's back now, that's really all you need to know, and you can jump in here. Yeah, I thought it was good. I really liked the art.
Yeah, Takara's art really stood out to me. I was like, this looks great. Just his Diana is really, like, she feels solid.
I like her voice. I like her voice with the other characters, and I especially think Dr. Psycho's a lot of fun to read. So I'm back on board, honestly. Like, I had a pleasant time with this book. I never read the backup, admittedly.
So I did, and I'll make it quick because this looks like it's setting up stuff in the Wonder Woman adjacent worlds.
Yeah, because it's setting up the Amazon crossover thing that's happening next year.
Yeah, so they're at the Fortress of the Bana Migdal Amazons that's in Korak, and they're basically recruiting new Amazons. And so they bring these 3 women there, and they all give them, weapons, and it's like a trial by combat. But this one lady, it figures out, like, because she doesn't grab, so on the tray there's guns, but she picks up like the staff, and they question her, why did you take the less lethal option? And she is like, well, if people have to fight tooth and nail for this tribe, they want to be here, and if they want to be here, that we have something in common, so why do I want to kill them? And she passes and the other 2 don't, and they go to fire on her, and you come to find out the guns are not loaded. And the queen there, who's ever in charge, it's not Artemis. What's the name? Anyways, the leader of the Bana Migdal is like, dispose of them, so they got to take them out. And they leave. You get a scene how they celebrate and what it means to become the newest Bana Migdal. And as they cut her hand, she basically signs in blood that she's there. And then a chimera attacks, which is a lion with the wings of a bat and a tail of a scorpion. And Artemis leads them into battle with her ginormous axe. So it was pretty good. The art it matches Takara's pretty well. Like, the lines are real clean, and the just the breakdown of the action is really well handled. There's a lot of panels though, so this made the short read feel a little bit longer. So I don't know if that's what they're going for, but the final page reveal that it's a chimera is pretty cool. Looks like Greece is attacking, and I'm wondering if this, or not Greece, but the Olympians, if this has something to do with Wonder Girl and what Hera's got going on there, and kind of what we saw with Artemis trying to recruit her, trying to find out what Yara's up to. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's also the voice that Vita Ayala does here is spot on. I've had some problem with their work before where it feels like the voices are just off enough that it's weird. Some of the Bat family stuff that they did during Future State, it was more miss than hit. Here I feel like it's all on, mainly because I'm not familiar with a lot of these characters, save Artemis. So it was pretty good. It was worth it if you have time and want to go back and visit. It's pretty good.
Okay. What are you reading the book?
So the first story I am going to give an 8 toward 2. And then the backup I'll give a 7.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with 8 on the main story. I had a good time with it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next issue. It's good. I'm happy to be reading Wonder Woman again. Action Comics 1036, Phillip K. Johnson and Daniel Sampere on the art. We begin the War World Saga.
Let me just say, I'm glad we saved this for last. I saved this book. I read this morning when I couldn't fall back asleep. Um, and who boy was that a mistake? Because then I had a harder time because this is Superman that I like. I feel like this is a story that Phillip Kennedy Johnson has thought about for years and what it means, what Mongol represents to Superman, and how their ideologies are going to play out over the War World. And the Sampere art is fantastic. It's chilling when it needs to be. There's some fist pump moments.
There's some very sad moments as well, which we'll get into.
Very, very sad moments on
I think
with it as well.
Yeah, it's a great first issue of the saga. I obviously been building up to it. I think, the first couple of pages though are quite interesting. So we have this character who what was his role?
So they're the Durlan that is sitting on the United Planets Council.
Yeah. So he's taking this new role in United Planets, but he had like a high up role in his own planet at first, but he's moving to United Planets. So he's sort of saying goodbye. And the scene plays out, this younger character comes in, and he's very like he's like a wise old mentor to this young character. He's very
Yoda.
He's very complimentary to him. He's very kind. He offers advice. He encourages him, and he's a very nice character. And then, but this character's there to tell him that he's, Superman's put a call saying that there should be help given. The United Planets should intervene and help Superman and co. At Warworld. And he says, "Oh, that's a bit weird that he's going after Mongol now. Why is he doing it now?" And he's like, he sort of speculates, but he ultimately says the word that there's Philosians involved.
Yep.
And this immediately makes this character, this guy in the United Planets, he immediately starts yelling. He talks down to this character. He says no one should ever hear that this message happened. Don't let anyone else hear it. And if you little wretch, speak a word of this, I will basically kill you. Like he said that all that's been given will be forfeit, and you will die in the same obscurity as your sow mother. And you're like, oh man, what does Durlan or Durla, whatever their planet, what does that have to do with the Philosians in Warworld? Yeah,
because this is like a long, deep-seated issue.
Like I say,
apparently.
The mention of the word Philosian turned this guy from seemingly like a really nice mentor figure who's very kind and considerate into a complete and utter dickhead.
Yep.
And like the flip happens immediately. He doesn't even like try to just like downplay it or like sort of convince him that Philosian's like a made up word. He just reacts like this immediately. Yep. So okay, we're building some bigger things here and what the Telosians mean to the greater world and maybe some history they share with other characters. Maybe this is a shame thing where the Durlans, like, they're partly responsible maybe for the fact that they've been, in their history and that this is like a secret he wants to have kept up.
He wants to keep down there because it feels like, to me, reading the whole issue, Warworld feels like something that the greater galaxy has allowed to happen as long as it doesn't bother them. So almost like, you can take these smaller, like it's like an appeasement scheme. World War II, right? Yeah, Nazi Germany, take the Czech Republic and the Sudetenland, just leave us alone. And that only can go so far, right? And I was getting those vibes from that scene there. Like this was a thing, like clearly they've been dealing with Mongol for generations at this point and the different iterations of him.
Yeah, Mongol who was, Mongol who is.
Right. And now it's coming back to bite them because Superman is not going to let it go, right? Like these branch off Kryptonians came to him for help, and Superman doesn't care about these old peace treaties or whatever. He's going to go do what he needs to. Also, I had now realized, and it's been however many months that we were introduced to the word Warzone. That's the name for people from Warworld. And I was like, oh, damn. I thought it was just like Mongols band of people. But when we get to Warworld and we see like it is an actual world with different groups all fighting for Mongols, like for Mongols' blessing, and you're just like, oh man, this is much more layered than I've ever read any Mongol story.
Yeah. So obviously we have Superman and the Authority traveling towards Warworld, and when we get there, like immediately, like obviously it looks horrific, and they notice on the outskirts of an orbit there's like dead bodies that have been chained up as like a, as a fear-mongering tactic. Yeah, this warning, presumably against their own slaves to not rebel, for outsiders to not interfere. Either way, like it's just horrific. And when they land down on the ship, like, well, first of all, actually, there's a character projected, the character who he saw in the War World meeting room back in that issue of Action Comics. I was like, yeah, so this guy sounds like, he talks. Yeah, he talks like a villain, let's be honest, right? He's very ominous.
He talks like a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's Midnighter.
So it basically saying she stay away and too late for Thaulan or companions. Yes, but it basically points his way in, and Superman like looks down, and there's basically a track of Thelosians who are on pikes, who are all dead, and just they're up in display, and it's this horrific visual. And the art here is really good because Superman's face, the shocked face as he looks over, and just sees all these dead bodies, and a lot of them have like the Superman emblem, like either cut into their chest or
branded,
yeah, like it. And there's just that close-up panel of Superman shedding a tear. It's really dark stuff. So this is not pulling punches, this story. This is portraying Mongol and Warworld as this horrific place.
Yeah, because up to this point, my familiarity with Mongol had been For the Man Who Has Everything, which is one of my favorite Superman stories of all time, with the Black Mercy plant and him trying to steal. He was almost like a third-rate Thanos at certain points. And then he destroys Coast City in Death of Superman, or post-Death of Superman. And World was kind of like a gladiatorial planet. Like, it wasn't like this wretched hellscape. It was like this Rome brought to life on a spaceship. And, there were slaves, but they were gladiatorial combatants. And this takes it to a whole new level. Like, he just committed genocide on this group. On the Thelosians, just to prove a point to Superman.
Yeah. And I mean, this might not be all of them. I suspect there still may be some left, but
maybe. But this is a good number of them that he basically murdered to prove a point.
Honestly, though, like, I would not be surprised if this is the story that makes Mongol an A-list villain. Because it's going to give him depth. It's going to give him this ominous presence. He might never get the adaptation quite as much because I think he's too much like Darkseid visually.
Yeah.
That I don't think he's ever going to get the adaptation on the big screen or anything like that. But
that said, with all these different Mongols, though, there is a way to do him differently that he doesn't have to be this big hulking, mass, right? Like you can definitely do like a Roman Emperor kind of alien Mongol, and he still is deadly. Superman's not this big hulking mess.
There was a moment actually when Superman was flew out to deal with the body that was on display. There's a nice little moment where some of the other characters in the Authority are talking about how kind and like caring Superman is, and like one of them is like, "Oh, I don't get this. Like, how can he possibly care for people this much?" And the other one, maybe it's Light Ray or whatever her name is. She says, "Oh, but I'd like to feel that." So I don't know, it's interesting to watch maybe how he might inspire some of these other characters as well that are even on the team with him. But they get to some bad guys next to a statue of Mongol, and they let rip. It's only one page, like, and it was 2-page spread, I should say. But I was worried that it was going to just feel like a generic action scene. I'm so glad that it was just done and over. And the whole point of it was that Superman takes the head of this Mongol statue, smashes it into the middle of the arena, and just as a statement, if Mongol's going to put out these dead bodies, he's going to take the statue, the head of Mongol from the statue.
And again, it plays in with like what you see in history of when a force goes to liberate another place and they knock down the statues as a symbolic. This is done here.
Oh, for sure. And Superman, even when he comes into the arena and he starts talking to the crowd, he says, you've been taught that this is all about strength and honor. You've been taught that these chains are a mark of pride. No, this is slavery, and Mongol is your slaver. And he says that, I don't expect that one speech is going to make you realize that you've been a victim this whole time, and like sort of break you out of what you've been taught since you were young, if not your entire life. But when this is over, I'm here to help you. I'm going to help you. And it's a really encouraging speech, and it's kind of like this acknowledgement that a lot of them aren't going to trust him at first is kind of like realistic. It was a really nice touch. But then we get the what's his name, Chetel.
Chetel, which there's another real world thing is that when they talk about slavery, when they bring it up during the American history, they call it chattel slavery. So it can't be, not on purpose. That's what this guy's name is, right? This version of Mongol it's close to chattel because we're doing the whole, oppressor type thing.
Yeah, but he comes out. He's the one who's missing like most of his limbs. He's only got one arm, and
he's all bound in all these chains, right?
Yeah, he says he has the most chains because he's been here the longest. He killed everyone in his generation, which is why he's in such bad shape. And like I think it's Manchester Black who gets cocky and says, "Oh, you came out here alone." He's like, "No, I'm not alone." And out walks Mongols like closest like comrades. Which one of them, by the way, the lady with the who's in like sort of the fur like dress, and she's got like the helmet thing on. She's straight up like a Cenobite. I was getting Cenobite vibes from this chick.
Well, that's Hellraiser, right? Cenobites.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, so you get this, ones like I don't know the names of some of these characters, but they're an impressive variety of villains to face. And out walks Mongol. Well, I say walks. He lands in his big beast.
Well, and this is after the one called Mother, who's the Cenobite looking one, like hits Superman with this like. Oh,
for sure. Yeah, I was about to get to that. I was just going to mention Mongol showing up, but yeah, you're right. Gotcha. So the big story beat here is that basically Manchester Black and Enchantress have been using illusions and trickery to make people think that Superman's still at the same power levels that he has been. But in actual fact, he is losing his powers and he's not as strong. And Mongol and Co know this. So they are like excited to deal with him because he's not the Superman that otherwise would have to fight them.
Right. They bring up the energy blast that basically Superman has radiation poisoning from that in the first Phillip Kennedy Johnson issues. Yeah, that we saw him and John dealing with.
Which they point out in the editor's note here that this same plot beat happened to him in Superman 29, the original Superman 29 in the Golden Age. I'm sure the fact that it's actually Comics 1029 is just a coincidence, but it's a neat one anyway.
Maybe. I mean, Phillip Kennedy Johnson loves Superman. You get that from the writing here. So, and then it just completely, as I talked about the Authority last issue, where I couldn't get a beat on where the Morrison stuff happens. Then Phillip Kennedy Johnson drops this that, oh no, Superman's been fighting radiation poisoning. He is getting weaker. And everything that happened in that Superman and the Authority Morrison comes into play here. And it's just like, God, man, I can't keep up with this.
But the beauty of this is that I didn't finish reading that, and it doesn't matter because it's very easy to understand.
You don't have to, but right. But for someone like me that was picking it up going, oh, well, the Authority, the only reason I kept finishing it was that, like, the Authority was going to go to Warworld with him. So I was like, maybe this is going to inform that. It ends up being on the same level of this weakened Superman that is using the Authority, not as a crutch, but as his team, like the actual purpose, like to help him do this. And here it's shown he's got the gray streak, a la Kingdom Come.
This is after he gets blasted by thingy. Yeah.
But yeah, and he had that gray streak in the Future State stuff.
Well, right? which is probably why that's what it is. It's to make it sync up with that.
And just we get him facing down the Mongol who is, and I'm just, boy.
Yeah, that's the ending. Is Mongol comes in, and is ready to fight him seemingly, and that's the it's a solid first issue to this arc. It puts Superman in a very perilous place, and it sets us off in a dark tone, and it really gives us like a dark world for him to like have to fight through and inspire. I suspect the first chunk of this story is going to be pretty miserable, in a sense that we're going to set up all the things that he has to overcome. So we're going to see him at his worst. They're going to put him
through the ringer, and so he can overcome the odds and, do what Superman does and instill hope in this place that's never known it, right? Because that's also the thing, is he has to instill hope in Warworld when they don't know what that is, right? They've been led to believe that their chains are strength, and that we've already seen how he tried to do this just one of the Philosians without law, right? And how much that kind of backfired. How is he going to do it here? I just want to go back real quick to the scene where he comes in and sees all of the the Philosians on the pikes and stuff, and he cries, right? Superman has a tear. That the guy in the cloak, as he is talking about how Superman can't be strong because he's not a warrior, right? He doesn't know what it's like to kill somebody, and that's how Warworld determines strength. Is like they say on Warworld that each person you killed, you basically take their soul and it adds to you, and that for Superman he's weak here because he doesn't have any of that backing him up, and it just kind of shows you the psychology of Warworld at play here too, that the odds are even back up there, just where it's at from when he arrives, and that's what that saying that they have is follow the dead. That those words carry weight here. That if you seek Mongol, you follow the dead, and it's just like, man, this is a hopeless case for the ultimate hope instiller, and it's just really, really great storytelling.
It's basically just an alien version of Shawshank Redemption. He's Andy Dufresne.
Yeah. So are we gonna get the Rita Hayworth poster corollary here?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder what that's gonna be then.
He's going to have a hologram of some sexy alien lady.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, it's just like you said. It feels like it's going to be miserable, which I'm not. As a Superman fan, I like the stories that tend to be more hopeful, but you got to start at this level to show you, Sampere and Johnson have both showed us the depths of Warworld.
When I say miserable, I mean it in the best possible way. I mean miserable in the, like, it has to be dark so that when he eventually wins and he eventually inspires some hope, or he eventually takes down Mongol, whatever those beats are going to be and however they're going to play out, like, this sad, oppressed world that he's got into that doesn't have like even a basis for hope. Because at least Earth, when he became Superman, like the concept of hope wasn't alien. Maybe we forgot how to like embrace it. Maybe we forgot how to like treat it or think about it. But the concepts weren't alien to us. We understood it. This is like something that is, so this is more like him landing in a very oppressive time in history where everyone is so because and even some of the worst times in history, there's still a sense that there were people trying to fight back. There were uprisings. There were secret groups trying to form rebellions, whatever it may be. This is a place where seemingly there is no rebellion. No one even has the inspiration to form one.
No, because when they do, right, it's like Thala, and then she gets punished for it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's so good. Like I was already excited for this, and then I got through this issue this morning and was like, I need more right now. Like, why isn't this double shipping? I don't want it to hurt the quality, but like, give me more in 2 weeks, please.
So to quote Shawshank Redemption, fear will keep you prisoner, hope will set you free.
Busy living and get busy dying.
Well, it's also quoting Shawshank, yes. What are you giving Action Comics 1036?
I'm gonna give this a 9.5.
I am giving it my third 9 of the week.
There you go.
I've had 3 9s this week. You know what? Good week. I can't deny that it's a high quality week. So there you go. That's Action Comics 1036.
I take it you didn't read the messy backup.
Oh God, no.
Oh, dude. Okay. Well, I won't even touch on it because I did not like it that much. In fact, I forgot what was going on from the last one that I read. So, yeah, it's not the best.
Okay. Next up, Joker issue 9. This is actually a Patreon book every month on patreon.com/MelfuzzTV. One of the higher tiers, you can make myself or Connor read a book, and one patron is keeping me on the Joker series. So this is issue 9, which did come out this week. And last issue ended with female Bane, or Lady Bane, who's officially getting called Vengeance now as a name. She said, "Hey, you can't pull the trigger, Gordon, so let me be your instrument. You help me with your smarts and your feelings, and I will be the one who kills the Joker." So they're on their way to a place where she's tracked him down to, and there's a lot of monologuing, internally from Gordon about his past with Joker, about going down this dark path, like being tempted to pull out the phone that he was given by Barbara to like call her. There's some stuff with Barbara separately, with Julia investigating Santa Prisca, and the military contacts that might have been involved in creating Bane, and even selling the weapon to Joker that helped kill Jason. The bomb. So what's actually really funny about this is that there's actually a lot of like referencing of old stories, because when she's talking about her past with Joker, she references Killing Joke, and she also references Cataclysm. Gordon does, because Gordon's thinking about his daughter, and then he's thinking about Sarah Essen being killed in Cataclysm. If you don't remember that, but that was his second wife. Big deal.
Which one was Cataclysm? Was that the post No Man's Land?
No, pre. That was the earthquake itself.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it references these, and then it references death in the family with the connection to someone sold Joker because they find a file that says something like sold a supervillain in America a missile, and it's like shit. Like that rings a bell. So basically they're at this place, this big mansion, Vengeance and Gordon, and they go in, and there's a bunch of dead henchmen lying around, and Joker's sitting at a table with a dude. And this guy turns out to be this like hotshot scientist who's part of the Network, this secret organization that does all these safe houses for villains and things. And this is the one that actually made Vengeance, and he turns her down. He's got like a code word, kind of like River and Serenity, which was obviously from the same creator as the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Man, that's a reference that hasn't been made in a while.
It's been a while, yeah. So she just kind of goes to sleep, and he kind of says, "Okay, that's only going to work once. She'll be back up in like 5 minutes." So, and Joker's sitting. This is the first time Joker's been face to face with Gordon in a few issues. It's only happened once, really, at the end of like issue 3 or whatever it was. But we get a lot of the stuff here. The scientist explains a bunch of things. Talks about like he's willing to just like sort of tell him everything that's going on, because he's so important, and he's had like dinner with like princes and presidents and like from every country in the world. Like he's so ingrained, like, and he knows so much stuff that if he ever is taken in by any authorities, like they'll find a way to kill him as quickly as possible so that he can't tell anyone anything. So he's got nothing to really bother like holding back when he's like telling stuff. So they go down to the secret lab, and basically what he's been doing is that he has designed a way to clone like people, and specifically villains, and it's a way for them to cheat death or get out of prison. The idea being that he'll create a clone that will instantly die, so that they can swap out like someone who's in like say a prison with a clone of them that's dead, so that the authorities think they're dead, which feels like it's going to be a way to explain a death or two down the line.
Yeah.
There's a few dead villains right now that maybe they're going to explain by having like a dead clone in there.
Also, I'm trying not to spoil a movie that's close to 20 years old, but also very similar.
Sure.
To another one.
But so they go down to this lab, and there's all these test tubes with like half like deformed clones in it, and like various bodies of just like being around. So it's that's high service, and Gordon's like, why are you telling me this? Because I have no reason to lie. There's no point. It talks about how much of a big shot he is, but and Joker's like hot dogging around as he does. So yeah, like it basically it turns out that because of whatever happened to the Joker when he was turned into the Joker, and when his skin was changed and he fell into the vat of chemicals, it basically changed them enough that he is impossible to clone. But this guy has been trying, and we get basically a room of test tubes of Jokers, and it's like like that scene in Alien Resurrection when Ripley finds all the failed attempts to clone
That's what
Ripley.
I was going to ask. Does it feel like Alien Resurrection, which might be the only time that's been asked?
It's kind of like that. It's a little bit like that. And Garn's like freaking out, like, you were trying to make a clone of yourself? And Joker's like, hey, I could start an improv team. We could start a podcast. Like, more amazing, great idea. But he's like, nah, it's not me. I didn't do this. I didn't want this. They did. So, the scientist, like, it was just a challenge because it seemed impossible. Like, I had to try and crack it. And Gordon's like, but who wanted another one of him? Like, why would there be a desire for more of Joker? Like, this is insane. And Gordon's like holding a gun to his head, and he's like, there's like close-up panels on the gun and his finger on the trigger. Like, he really is thinking about doing it. And this is not a Joker. This is a scientist. Like, he's so like horrified by the idea that someone might want to kill him or want to clone the Joker. Sorry, that like he can't even. But he's like, yeah, like, you know what? This is, and so he explains the idea is that the network, right, who all the villains have ties to, that they go to be hidden and things. Like, this network wants even more control. So the idea that they could replace the supervillains with their own versions that they can control because they designed them, because he calls them designer supervillains, is super tempting. Like, we could like wreak chaos. We could test out villains by sending them to Gotham, because Gotham has got so many villains that it's kind of a playground, like, to just go test different villains against Batman. And it's like, this is like the fairiest shit. The idea of like taking Joker and turning him criminal. Like, the one good thing you can say about Joker is that he is himself. He is the Joker. Mm-hmm. He is truly unique, and he is his own monster, and he is his own free spirit, if you will. But they want to turn them into their own Big Mac version of the Joker, where they can control the Joker and basically use his chaos as a tool to create anarchy only when they want anarchy to happen, so they can drive and influence certain decisions.
That's not, that's not how chaos works. You don't get to control chaos. Right?
Yeah, like, but that's what they're trying. That's the
no, I know. But I just, like, even Alexander Luthor knew you can't do that, which is why he left Joker out of the Infinite Crisis plans. You know? Joker does not play well with others.
But as they're having this conversation, the woman from the Texas Chainsaw family, who's been hunting Joker, throws a knife. She shows up. She throws a knife at the scientist in the neck, stabs him to shit, so he dies. The big guy from the family sort of has Joker by the throat and injects him with some stuff. I think it's just to knock him out more than anything. And then she throws a throwing dagger at Gordon. So he's got a dagger in his chest, and he passes out as these two are taking Joker away. In fact, one of the things they mentioned during the issue as well, actually, is that there's a lot of rich people who have developed a taste for human flesh. There's a lot of cannibals in high society. So part of what this scientist does is, because he can clone people, is he basically just makes human meat that they can sell. There's like secret items on like really posh restaurants. If you want human meat, you can get it.
It's like the opposite of Beyond Meat, right?
But the reason why I thought of that there is because as they're leaving, the daughter from the Texas Chainsaw family says, "Yeah, my daddy always said we could taste the difference with your like produced like human meat. Like you couldn't taste the fear of the person who died. You have to hunt the people to get the good taste."
Like, Tynan, buddy, where's this coming from, dude?
Yeah, that's when like super like like mad scientist horror movie stuff. This issue, it was really quite interesting.
Every issue you talk about and I'm listening to makes me want to read this book more because it seems like it's getting better. Like the first two didn't seem like that, but now we have the Lady Bane clone that's basically X-23, and we got cannibals on eating cloned human meat. It's like, this is a Bat book. This makes no sense, and I love it.
And Gordon sort of passes out, but he wakes up when Vengeance Lady Bane comes in, and he's like, "Where is he? Where is he?" Like she's pissed.
Just basically Christian Bale's Batman now.
Yeah, and she's like, "Sorry, Gordon, I didn't want you to die," and she leaves him for dead because he's got the dagger sticking out of him. So Gordon gets his phone out. He's able to tap and call Oracle, and Oracle is basically just doesn't realize that he's in pain and just starts saying, "Dad, is that you? I'm just, I'm glad we did some blood tests, blah blah." And she doesn't realize that he's lying there with the phone, kind of like, so the last panel is the phone kind of coming out of his hand as if, obviously he's not dead, but they're kind of teasing us that he could be dead, and that's the end of the issue. But the big reveal on the last page though is when it cuts back to Oracle, the blood she tested, what she's talking about on the phone. Whoever's attacking them, like, this is personal. They're trying to push their buttons. But remember, it was an issue or two ago. A Talon attacked Barbara in the clock tower.
Yeah,
she did some tests on the blood that was left behind, and she knows who that corpse is. Would you care to guess who the dead person is that the Talon might be?
It's not Gordon, is it?
What do you mean?
Like, they didn't clone Gordon and then...
No, it's not clone. It's someone who did die. It is
okay.
Someone who died.
Oh. I would need a full list because I can't remember who all died. Because I remember it was Bane and Man-Bat, which those two have come up in Task Force Z.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember who else died. Just give it to me.
James Gordon Jr.
It's JJ.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is like specific to them. They're coming. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff in this issue. The mythology of this book and this network and all the shady shit they're up to is kind of insane. Kind of digging it. Different artist on this issue as well, which was a pleasant surprise. Now, I don't think the art's great, but it's better than March.
It's not March.
It's not March. Yeah.
I feel like that's a Mild Fuzz exclusive rating. There's March or not March. If you're not March, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So Stefano Raphael's the artist on this book, and I do feel it's a little flat at times, but I mean, I'll take that over the scratchiness and extra over the top line work of March. So it is what it is. But yeah, story wise though, I kind of want to stretch this to the 8. I kind of loved the mad science stuff of this issue. I was kind of into it. I do have to mention the backup. I won't say much about it, but the girl that got out of prison last issue, who was friends with Punchline in high school, basically talks about how back in high school she had a yearbook and she had circled a lot of like faces, and a lot of people, all the people she circled other than herself, has turned up dead recently through the various stuff that's going on. Good. So she's scared to testify, but they don't have the yearbook anymore because it burned in the fire that happened several issues ago. So they're trying to get her to testify, but she's too nervous to. And then the final thing is that Punchline has got Orca on a hospital bed in the prison and is like injecting her with something, knowing that she betrayed her, and so it's kind of menacing and just this kind of villainous ending. But I mean, the backup's okay. It's whatever. Like I get through it. It's like 8 pages. I don't feel much for it. Like I think the entire story would probably work as better as like an annual size one shot that it does as the however many 8-page chapters we're getting. But it is what it is. So backup's like, I don't know, like a 6 or something like that. Nothing terrible, but nothing great either. So that's Joker issue 9. Pretty interesting stuff. So cool. And I do have another Patreon book, Animal Man issue 13. This is actually from last month. I had to delay this a couple of times. So you'll have 14 relatively soon, but issue 13 of Animal Man. So last issue, the aliens were there. We had the meta like undoing of the villain that was chasing them, all that stuff. This issue is kind of a fresh start. Animal Man's still in Africa, and he runs into Buana Beast at the airport.
As you do.
As you do. But he's not in costume though. He's just, he says his name's Maxwell. Mike Maxwell is his name. And they're having like, coffee, and they're kind of reminiscing about like all that crazy stuff we went through last year. Because keep in mind this is issue 13. So it would have been a year since that first arc, give or take. So that makes sense. But basically, we find out that Maxwell is looking for his successor. It's time to pass on the torch to a new beast, and he mentions that he's actually only the second white Buana Beast. Like every other beast has been black, and there's a lot of stuff in this. There's a lot of political stuff. There's a lot of South African stuff in this issue. The issue actually doesn't start with that. It starts with like news reports of like. Basically the news are saying that the police are like dealing with like protests and stuff, and they're claiming that there's no violence and everything's peaceful, but you see like these black and white panels of police beating up protesters, of being excessive with force, of actually outright shooting some people. So stuff that's sadly all still too relevant and really dark, and it's like, okay, so this is a super political issue. They're really delving into this stuff, and we have this search for the new beast, and Alman basically just decides to come along with them. So yeah, you know what? I want to see more of Africa while I'm here. I'll come and help you find this new guy, whoever it may be. Maxwell's got like a safari hat on and some sunglasses, and they're riding off in a jeep. So they're all happy. And they go to like this cave where the beast helmet is, and he's got the serum which makes him like super strong and whatever, right? So it's like, okay, we have to like find whoever this new guy is. So he does like a ritual with the fire, and he sees it in the smoke and stuff, and it's it's all fun. And we actually cut to who this guy is going to be. So it's this guy named Dominic, and it turns out he's actually like he's got like a roll of film that he's trying to give to an American journalist to take back and develop, to like expose what's going on in South Africa to people. So he's like an investigator, sort of like freedom fighter type character. So he's
like an activist.
Yeah, so we're kind of promoting him as this kind of like noble guy with a good cause right away. So immediately he's kind of likable. But he gets like picked up by police who attack him from behind like very quickly, and they throw him in a cell, and like immediately this cop's like corrupt. He's already beat him up. He's got a baton, and he's talking about shitting in his bucket, and like if you happen to hang yourself by choice, he sets up a noose. It's like super dark. Oh yeah, super dark. But yeah, so it gets super vicious, and this is sort of intercutting with Animalman and Buana Beast. Buana Beast like merges, because obviously one of his powers is that he can merge two animals together, and he makes like it's like a bird and I don't even know what this animal is actually. What's it's like a deer but with like two vertical,
like a pronghorn,
yeah,
or an antelope, a gazelle.
Is it? It's probably a gazelle.
Okay.
Yeah. So clearly my animal kingdom knowledge is lacking a bit here.
Yes, you're not. Yeah.
I could really be doing with some labels on all these animals that pop up in Animal Man. It would help.
And the sad thing is, I could probably look at them and know exactly what they are.
Oh, probably. But he mixes that with a bird anyway, and so we get this like flying monstrosity.
Put a bird on it.
And he rides into search. So we go to this scene where the cop is like beating the guy up. He's using racial language on him. There's a word that he's using that I'm not familiar with. I assume it's a word that's more specific to the region of South Africa. But so this felt like a super dark story. There's some setup here as well, with the cop talking about his grandmother had this story about a unicorn, and it's basically just relevant because he talks about how the unicorn was this like the what do we call it,
so it's a mythological beast, right, that represents the
horn.
Purity and...
No, I'm just trying to think of the word horn. Right. The horn is a weapon.
I wasn't looking at you.
Yeah, I was doing this. I was doing this for a reason, Matt. I was signaling.
I know, but I wasn't looking there on the screen.
So, but that sets up for his demise later. You'll be pleased to know. But Animal Man,
please say it's in a cabin in the woods style way.
It very much is. Animal Man and I should call him Maxwell rather than Buana Beast because he's about to pass the torch. But they show up and like knock this cop out, and they take him outside, and he tries to explain to him that you're now you're going to be the new Buana Beast. And the guy and Dominic's like, Buana Beast, that's a bit of an imperialist title. Yeah, I think I'm going to change that. And he does when he puts on the helmet later. He says, "I'm just the Beast now. Like I'm not Buana Beast."
Nice.
And he even like points out things he doesn't like, because like Maxwell's like, "Hey, this helmet will help you control animals," and he's like, "I don't think I'm cool with the word control." Like like he starts pointing out all these things that doesn't quite like about this whole
and I like
idea.
that it's also Morrison subtly pointing this stuff out with these characters that were created in the 60s. And this is 1989, right? Is this not still out, or is it?
Yeah, it's about
90s
that
by this point.
Yeah, it's late 80s.
Okay. Yeah, so like just the fact that this is Morrison going like, hey, yeah, this is all kind of messed up. Why don't we try to rectify this a little bit? Like him just being called the Beast. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And we hear a couple of times throughout the issue that there's going to be a big protest, and they keep calling it an illegal gathering, right? So we have this like site of like all these local characters protesting, and the police are like there with the riot gear, and they're saying this is an illegal gathering. Return to your homes peacefully. But then you also hear them turn around talking privately, saying, "No, we don't want this to actually dispel. We want an excuse to like incite the fight." So like super shady stuff. And it's actually Maxwell who kind of like comes walking out in front of everyone, in front of the crowd, and says, if you fire on these people, you fire on me, and it'll be harder to explain, the death of an American. And he actually gets shot in the shoulder, but the cop just doesn't like hesitate. He goes, "You're pathetic," and he fires at him. And then the ground starts to crumble, and some of the trucks start to fall on the ground. It turns out Animal Man pops out of the ground, and he's like, "How did I do?" Basically, he was doing some like mole style powers and like making the ground like rumble and crack apart. And the leader of the movement, who's been talking over the radio, like the cop gets to him because that was the whole goal of this, is he wanted to like find him and kill him to sort of stop this resistance. But sure enough, a unicorn effectively shows up. It's basically a zebra mixed with something else. I don't even know what it's mixed with, but it's mixed with something
fantastic. It's got a horn though.
Yeah, it's got a horn. It's got like a unicorn style horn, but it's clearly a zebra that he's used as part of the mix. And sure enough, he gets impaled in the stomach, and we see the new guy, Dominic, with the mask on and the little loincloth. But it's this passing of the torch. It's this kind of a more heroic version of the character who's going to stick up for these people. And it's like oh, what about that corrupt cop Van de Voort? Did he die? Animal Man asks, and he goes, he died of a rare disease. And then the final panel of him in the mask is like, symbolism. I kind of made me laugh. I'm not gonna lie. At the end of the story,
it's very tongue in cheek, right?
Yeah, no, I love it. It's great. The last page is the politicians or whoever in South Africa are like, okay, we got that film mule though, right? Like that film mule never made it to the press. And he's like, yes, I took the camera off of myself. But when they look at the photos, it's just like family photos. Someone swapped the film. And the other panels on this page is Buddy walking into Daily Planet looking for Perry White because he's got a roll of film in his hand. He's like, hey, I've got something for Perry White.
Nice.
So that's the epilogue of this story. Really good issue. Like it had a lot of political stuff. It had some good messaging. It instantly made you like the new character quite a bit. Maxwell as the previous Buana Beast already seems more interesting because of this, and some good scenes. The art's been very consistent, of course. I really dug it here as well. So no, I like this. I like Morrison tackling stuff like this, and this is exactly the sort of issue. Like anyone who says, "Oh, comics are too political nowadays," like 80s. This is an 80s comic. All right.
Every time people do that, I like to point them to the Hard Traveling Heroes with Green Lantern, Green Arrow. Also, like Superman was like, he started off fighting like drunk drivers and was, the protector of like the lower middle class. That's why Lex Luthor was a businessman scientist. It's like it's always been there, guys. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it didn't exist.
Yep, no, it's always there. So I just like to point that out once again. So no, really good issue. Solid 8.5. Really dug it. The run at times is weird. Like, there's no denying. Sometimes the meta stuff gets a little on the weird side. I think this, though, was, obviously it's a little bit meta when he says he get killed by symbolism, but other than that, it's a very straight story that obviously has a lot of allusions to some real-world problems that it's dealing with. But no, dug it. So, there you go. That's Animal Man issue 13. Which will take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel/moment, favourite cover, favourite art, and top 5. Well, I read 5. You read 4.
You had 5. I had 4. But
so we can rank. So what's your panel/moment of the week?
It's gonna be from Action Comics. Basically, I could pick anything from here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll I want something not so dark. I'll go with Superman dropping the Mongol statue head into the arena and giving that speech of, I know you don't know, who I am, but I stand for it, but I'm here to help.
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted because part of me wants the tear from Action, but I also love the moment that Batman and Wong come face to face in the smoke when he's stealing the prisoner.
That's a good one.
I really dig that moment. And there's even maybe a couple of things in I think in Robin and Batman, when we first see Croc, or we first see even Robin in the outfit in the sewers, really good moments. I think I'm going to pick the tear from Superman, but it was a tough choice. There's actually some really cool moments in a lot of these books this week. Yeah, which is nice. I
also want to put in a shout to Wonder Woman. There's a scene where she's flying that you mentioned that's kind of drenched in gold. Looks real nice.
Yes, very good.
Just like Takara's art, I was just I really enjoyed that image especially.
Yeah. All right, cool. Best cover of the week. I'll just jump in because I have one choice. It's an easy choice for me this week. The main cover is very good for Imposter, but that Behermo variant is absolutely stunning. It's Wong standing with the GCPD jacket on, with her back to the reader, but there's just a city in front of her, but it's in the shape of like Batman. It's so good. Very beautiful stuff. What's your cover?
I'm going with the Wonder Woman variant. It's by someone named TK. And it reminds me
Tony Khan.
Manipul.
Tony Khan's been doing.
I was gonna make that joke and go, he's saving wrestling, but also doing some great art. But it's like a soft kind of watercolory look. Like there's a softness to it, and she's in like a laurel wreath surrounded by doves. And it's a very nice cover.
All right, art of the week.
So this is a tough week because I liked all the art. However, Action Comics really moved me to the Sampere art, so I gotta give it to him.
Yeah, I gotta go with Sorrentino. Obviously, Nguyen's great. Sampere's great. Takara was very good. But Sorrentino's just like another level, so I have to go with Sorrentino for Imposter. All right, rank your books, Matt. Go.
All right, so Action Comics 1, Robin, Batman 2, Batman the Imposter 3, Wonder Woman 4. But those were all above. Those are all 8s or above. So.
Yes, it's good week. This is tough. I think I'm going to go with Imposter at number 1. Number 2, I'll go with Action. Number 3, I'll go with Robin and Batman. Number 4, Wonder Woman. Number 5, Joker. But yeah, I didn't have a bad comic. Like, some backups I ignored, sure, but I did not have a bad comic. Like, so, good week. Not a heavy week, but a good week, and that's okay. Which leads me to telling you what is going to be coming next week from DC Comics, Detective Comics, as they're technically called. So next week we have Batman 117, the conclusion to Fear State. So that's a big deal. We have Nightwing 86, The Flash 776, Justice League 69. We have Nice House on the Lake issue 6, which is the final issue of that before its break for several months. So make sure to savor that one. Catwoman 37, Superman Son of Kal-El issue 5, Suicide Squad issue 9. Robin's issue 1 is next week, so that's a fun one to be starting. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow issue 5, Green Lantern issue 8, Legends of the Dark Knight issue 7, Blue and Gold issue 4, Aquaman The Becoming issue 3, Batman Secret Files The Gardener issue 1, Batman v Bigsby, A Wolf in Gotham issue 3, Suicide Squad King Shark issue 3, Nubia and the Amazons issue 2, Refrigerator Full of Heads issue 2, Wonder Woman Evolution issue 1. What the hell is that? And then Looney Tunes
I'm looking it up right now.
It is definitely a busy week now. I mean, obviously there's some stuff that we're not reading, but it is definitely a much busier week next week than it has been the last couple. So I would suspect next week to be a meaty episode, guys. I'll tell Matt to brace himself for a longer recording.
It's right before I go on vacation, so we'll get in, get out, get on with it. But yeah, I just by my count for myself, I have 11 books.
Whoa!
And I can't justify cutting any of them except for Justice League. So don't be surprised, guys, if I
mean, you've not been enjoying that book, Matt. So
No, that's what I'm saying. Don't be surprised if we don't, because I'm not gonna not read the Gardner book. I know I don't have to, but Ivy's on the cover.
Yeah, I don't know if I care about the Gardner book, but there's no way I'm not reading Refrigerator Full of Heads. There's no way I'm not reading, all the main books. Like, I mean, the one that I obviously liked the least last time from this week was Green Lantern, but I still want to give it another shot.
I want to know where it's going to go, because I'm enjoying the Joe story more than anything.
And I want to try Robin's for sure. It's such a good idea for a book that I need to try it. So,
and that's Seeley, right?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, Seeley. I enjoyed Seeley on Grayson. So
busy week. But hey, what happens from time to time. Just got to deal with it. And that shit Connor did claim that he would be back next week. So
but he's gonna have like 4 months worth of comics to read. So
true.
And we all know why he wasn't here today. The new Taylor Swift re-release dropped, and he's out there listening to it.
He's a filthy Taylor Swift fan. Yeah,
he is. This, yes. So, but yeah,
he's out there stuffing corpses into bins, into trash cans.
What?
that is a weird that is a weird plug for my top 10 rotten movies video over in Male Fuzz Movies. I made a joke which will make
that. I'm sure it was an evil ginger.
Which will make that reference make sense. I promise.
There you go.
But you gotta go find out for yourself. I'm not explaining it here. So that is the show. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. Thank you to Tyler Heston, De Palacios, David Sharp, Bordenau, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. You can of course support us for as little as $1 per month at patreon.com/MaleFuzzTV and get some bonuses. At the $5 tier, you get early access to the show by a day. You get a producer credit at the $20 tier, of course. And so on and so on. So go and have a look, see if you're interested in any of that, and help keep keeping all the content coming and supporting the show. And of course, I plugged a video a couple of times, but yeah, we do have other reviews on Male Fuzz TV and Male Fuzz Movies if you're interested in that kind of thing. So go and have a look. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, ding the bell for notifications. All those things do help. If you listen to the audio podcast version, do rate us 5 stars and give us a review on iTunes or Podcast Addict, wherever you get podcasts from. You can get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, and sharing us out on social media and telling all of your comic loving friends is probably also something you can do. That helps us out a lot. So all of that is very good. But I am very hungry, so I am going to take this time to say thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Feel free to go and harass Connor on Twitter at ConnorRyan94. Go and tell him he is the worst for missing the show. And he threatened to block me this week because I sent him a photo from the Chucky TV show where Chucky's got a bunch of syringes sticking out of him, and he's like,
you know what though, you know how needlephobic he is. That is kind of messed up, man. That's Joker level. Notice, I'd like to make the jury aware that the defendant shows no remorse for his actions.
No remorse. What's the opposite of remorse? Because that's what I feel right now.
Glee.
I feel the glee, and I am excited for round 2. But yes, thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching watching. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.